which is one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First up is our students, our schools, Iowa Holmes Grove Middle School Library Program.
So I'll let them introduce themselves. We have some students here to talk about the library program, and we have our librarian, Miss Arndt. Great, fourth, yes, Miss Wallace. Let you guys take it away.
Hi, I'm Eva. I'm sixth grade. Hi, I'm John, and I'm in fourth grade.
Before you go on, I forgot to do this. If parents would like to take pictures and or videos, they certainly can come up here either side of us and do so, but it's up to you folks.
Okay. I'm Karen Arndt. I'm the school librarian at Iowa Holmes Grove Middle School. So I thought I'd give you the background of the library program over the last couple of years. I started in 2023-2024 school year, and the previous year it was vacant, pretty much the whole year. So what I inherited was 3 cartfuls of books, about 600 books uncatalogued, and kind of a messy library. Book return cart was overflowing with books that had been returned. During the course of those first few months, I cataloged, I weeded, I read a inventory to find out that we had lost about, go to the next slide, 462 books were lost during that inventory. So for the year that the library was absent, 462 books had disappeared. 600 books were cataloged and added to the collection, and then I was able to start library programming activities. Circulation statistics as well. In August to January of this year, because I want to just compare year-to-year numbers, we had 1,356 books circulated my first year in the library. And this year in the library, we have increased circulation based on some of the programming changes that I have done that I'll talk about on the next slide. Dr. Rob, my slide. So the improvements to the library, I needed over 5,000, I know that number sounds scary, 5,000 outdated books that were probably 20, 30, 40 years old. Some of them were 50 years old. I genred the fiction sections. What that means is that all of the adventure books are together, all of the graphic novels are together, all of the historical fiction are together. And what that has done is made it easier for students to find books that interest them, so that they can find the similar genres together. I more than tripled the graphic novel collection. That is a high interest area for students today. They find the graphic novels very appealing. So I made that, and I'm continuing to work on that. And then the thing that I did this year that I think is probably my second most proud achievement, so I think my book clubs are my best, is I made different zones in the library. So the library is a large space. I have a chill out zone where I always have explore.org on the camera or on the TV, which shows African elephants in the morning, a kitten rescue in the afternoon, and a place for students to just come in and relax if they need time to like de-escalate whatever's going on in their day. I have my main classroom section because I do teach 5th grade UA every day of the week, and I need a space for that. I have a collaboration zone over by the reference section and that beautiful painting. I think George Washington, that has a whiteboard table so that if students are working on a project, they can like work collaboratively, but not disturb a classroom or other people. And then I have my reading zone, which is the back wall, which is open for all new book displays. Right now, I just put up Black History Month, so there's a lot of great Black American authors over there. And the shelves are the same that they have always been. Software, I've also improved software. When we started, we had 2 databases, or I should say when I started, we had 2 databases. In 2023, I added an encyclopedia, Scholastic Go. I added Research Rockets, which are magazines from around the world, Australia, the United Kingdom, India. So the students can find interesting topics that interest them and like learn how it's going in other countries. And then I also added escape rooms. The Breakout EDU is a great escape room program where students, instead of being actually locked in the room, they solve the puzzles to break out of a box, opening physical box. This year, I added Comics Plus, which is graphic novels and manga collection, thousands and thousands of them. I added Fact Site Country for guidance for the older middle school students, and then Couple Go, which is an awesome collection for 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, talking about biographies, history, science. So just in the 2 years, I've added 6 new databases. And then, of course, I teach the 5th grade UA class this year. Thanks to change in the schedule, I also have 8th grade reading support time. So over the 2-week period, I will see 1 8th grade class for reading support, engaging them in reading, doing activities to show them that it's fun, reading can be engaging, reading can be social, and we rotate through all of that. And my 4th graders, most of them come every single week for a library checkout, and it's one of the highlights of my day. I was starting off with a rough week, and Mrs. Wallace's class came today, and by the end of her class, I knew I could get through the rest of the day because her kids are so much fun to come into the library with. The open library schedule does allow students to come throughout the day to check books out, to use a quiet space to read, work on a summative. It's always available for them. And then my book clubs. I have been hosting a Mock Newbery Book Club for 11 years. I started at my first school in New York State. I brought it here last year. Eva was one of my first Mock Newbery students here. Haley is a Mock Newbery this year. And so I would like them to talk about their experiences with the 2 clubs that they've been a part of.
So before I started the Mock Newbery Club, I always thought of reading as a chore, something I had to do. And I wouldn't do it unless it was for homework. And then I joined, and now I think reading is super fun, and it's like an activity to do.
I've always loved reading, and I feel like as soon as I saw that you could join the book club, I said to myself, this is the perfect thing for me because it's people that I like to be with who also love to read, and I feel like I've just always loved reading.
I also host a 7th grade book club and an 8th grade book club, and I do the book fair twice a year. And author visits. Last year we had a graphic novelist, Matt Haggerty, come in, and he was awesome with the kids. This year we had Jessie Janowitz come in, and her most recent book, All the Ways to Go, talks about an ancient game called Go, which is a little bit like chess, but not quite. But I think the highlight of that author visit was when we had a little downtime, we popped into Mrs. Wallace's room, and they got to spend some time just with Jessie, which is the little picture you see on the bottom. She spent probably 20 minutes just hanging out and playing a Go game with them, which I thought was really awesome. Like, I think an extra thing for them after all the people.
I just want to add 2 things to that. First of all, the Mock Newbery Club. When Eva was in the Mock Newbery Club, she was in my classroom, and just the excitement that those kids had. There were, was it 5 books that we had? I think it was 5, right? And we got copies of the books as well. So I read along with the kids, and we talked about it every day. And then they got to virtually meet with another class in New York on the day that the Newbery book was picked. And I think, was that the year they picked the one that you guys picked? It matched, right? They get to pick their own, and then they see the real one that's picked. So that was a lot of fun. And the Jessie Janowitz book, we also received ahead of time, and my class read it out loud. And they were so excited about this book that we actually bought the Go game. And we had been playing it quite a lot. So when she showed up in her classroom, I think, John, you could say they were pretty surprised that the author showed up in her classroom and that she got down on the floor and played the Go game with them. They were super excited, right? We still play it now. We have it in our classroom. But, I think one of the big things that I've noticed is that my kids are excited about the library. We used to go once a month if we needed to, if we had a project. And now we go every day and I mean, every week. And is it library day? Is it library day? You know, and this morning it occurred to me that it doesn't feel like the library you're probably used to because of the activities that go on in there. For example, what was the running and yelling today? It was a scavenger hunt, and they were trying to find certain characters throughout the library. And you could hear, oh my God, I found Captain Underpants or whoever it was. And they were all running and looking and just enjoying it. You want to tell them, are you going to talk about regular library visits or do you want him to talk about his favorite?
Please go ahead, because I don't remember what the next slide is.
My favorite is the relaxing puzzle section. 'Cause I can look at the puzzle while they're doing their thing.
My favorite is probably the activities that they have in there.
I think one of the cool ones was the books that she wrapped for Christmas, right? There were all kinds of presents under the tree and they could read. All she had on them was a summary. So just by looking at the summary, they could decide if they wanted to pick up a book and then unwrap it. But if they unwrapped it, they had to read it and write a summary on it. So
I don't know if there's another slide inside. Programming. Oh, so that leads into the program. I am hosting a bookmark contest right now. I did one last year as well, when we pick a winner for every grade level, and then we make copies of those bookmarks, and they become the bookmarks that the kids get to borrow instead of the ones that I buy from Demco. Scavenger hunts I do often. The one John was talking about is a Dogman scavenger hunt because the movie just came out on Friday. And one of the benefits of working at Barnes & Noble is I get all their extra programming stuff, and they didn't want to use the scavenger hunt. So I said, I'll take it. And so they've been doing that this week. And during the holidays, I did a tic-tac-toe. So shortened bingo form because it was the student did a whole tic-tac-toe, then they got to pick one of the rap books that were underneath the tree to keep as a prize, because another perk of Barnes & Noble is I get to collect all the advanced reading copies that nobody wants, and then I can use them as prizes. There's probably some of the things I don't even think about that I just do on a daily basis for programming. Right now, my NCATs are all decorated for Valentine's Day for the love of reading. Because it's fun. And there's the mystery book, so they don't know what they're getting, except a teaser, and so then they check it out. Do I have another slide? Oh, yes. Any questions?
Go ahead, Joe. What's your favorite book?
Books or genre or author?
Oh, you and the kids.
I really like the what was our last book?
Before this one?
Yeah.
Impossible Creatures.
Yeah, that was I really liked Impossible Creature.
So, out of book club, I feel like my favorite book, it's like a book series, The Land of Stories. It's like a really good series. But my favorite book that we read in book club was definitely one called Olivetti, which was like about like a typewriter that could like type itself and like talk to people.
What was the name of it again?
Olivetti.
Olive Eddie.
My favorite book is The Crossover, but it's not a book club book.
The graphic novel or the novel in verse? Okay.
I love the graphic novel section too, because I have a lot of kids that have difficulty reading. And so they see these books that everybody else is reading and they know they can't read that. But when they see it in the graphic novel section, they can look through the pictures and they can get an idea of what everybody else is getting. So the fact that she's doubled that section is wonderful. Still waiting for a Harry Potter graphic novel.
I don't know if we're gonna do it. No, those are coming. They're on order. I don't know about Harry. They do. They do. They're on book 4, I think, of 7. Couple more years.
Anybody? Go ahead, Cindy.
Do you know what books are the most popular books in your library? Like
Graphic novels.
the graphics? Those are
By far and away the graphic
Oh,
novels.
regularly.
In fact, I'm learning as graphic novels become more common that, and what the kids are telling me, it's more accessible for them. They can read it in one sitting. They anecdotally also know they don't have the sustainability to sit long with a book or to sit long at all. And so graphic novels are easier for them to do. And I'm noticing a lot of publishers who had a book that was a chapter book 5 years ago are now publishing it as a graphic novel. So all of the Percy Jackson books are graphic novels now. Even James Patterson's Alley Cross is now in graphic novel format. So they're not just graphic novels as an original format. They're bringing those chapter books over and making them graphic novels so that more students have access and can build that background knowledge that other kids won't have because they couldn't read maybe a classic Beowulf in print form, but in a graphic novel, they can understand what everyone else is talking.
I have another question.
The other program that we learned about is the Sora program. That gives our struggling readers audiobooks.
Mhm.
And that's been huge for them.
I just have a question. So do you feel like the graphic novel, I see what you're saying about, just seeing a book, face in a book. Do you feel like it helps to grow their interest in, do you ever see them going from the graphic novels to chapter books? Does it seem to help bring them in, or does it only get them used to the graphics? I'm just curious because I'm not with you every day.
It depends on the child.
Okay.
Some of those children will graduate into the regular print version of a book. Some people are just, they like the graphic novels. If they're a struggling reader, they're going to be more comfortable with that graphic novel and probably stay in that graphic novel format. I think back to when my daughter was in 3rd grade and all she wanted was Goosebumps. And I was like, oh, no. But then I gave up and said, fine, go ahead, read what you want. And today she reads quite fluently and quite long books.
Mhm.
So I think it's a, what's the word I'm looking for? Like kind of a stages thing, like they'll grow out of it when they're ready. And some people won't. If you saw the size of the graphic novel section at the bookstore for adults,
Mm.
it's becoming
Yeah.
popular there too. It's no longer the comic books from like Marvel and DC. They are graphic novels. And I think that they're here to stay. And I think that there's value in them. They're not my preferred format. In fact, I tell my students, I'm like, I just can't do the back and forth. But I think it's still good reading for kids. And if they're reading that, then if that's all they're going to read, I'll take it.
Follow-up question. Do you think it encourages artistic? Like, do you notice that kids are maybe reading that and maybe trying to draw their own pictures, maybe writing stories with pictures, that kind of thing?
Definitely. I had, who was it last year? The 4th graders who were writing their own graphic novels and had lunch with Matt Haggerty, the last year's author, because he was a graphic novel author, came and showed him their graphic novel. And he was like giving them pointers and he sat there and listened to every page as they turned, and they had it stapled as a book. So I do believe that it does help them artistically as well. And if this Laura Lundstedt was here, she could probably attribute to it too. I can't draw stick people, but the skills that I see students have today, I do think it helps their artistic skill as well.
Go ahead, Joe. You seem very excited about giving your favorite book. What is your favorite book?
Ever since I was in high school, it's Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I probably have 8 different versions of it on my bookshelf. Like movies. But I do like a lot of books. I just am not a fan of graphic novels just because I'm old fashioned and that back and forth. I don't look at the pictures, so I lose that. But I have dabbled in manga, and that one I might be able to attempt. Okay, so.
Thank you. Anybody else? Go ahead.
I just want to mention that I appreciate all your hard work and, you know, adapting to the situation that you're in as far as, you know, it sounds like you've gotten out of your comfort zone a little bit to meet the needs of the students. And I like your spirit and how you're willing to look at what they like and work with that. So thank you for your presentation.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I'll just echo that, but I'd like to hear that the kids are asking to go to the library. So thank you for offering them enough options that they, you know, when kids want to go to the library, that's a bonus. Whether they're reading a graphic novel or a traditional chapter book, glad to hear that they want to go in.
I think it's also good that they're just coming to the library, even if it's just a safe space for them to hang out, even if they're not getting a book. The library is for everyone, even if you're not a reader, because hopefully I can turn that around too.
Awesome. Thank you very much for coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to the parents for bringing your children time. Thank you.
Yes.
Boy.
Pardon.
All right, next up, public input. Anybody for public input? Go ahead, Mr. Roy.
Jeff Roy, resident. Guys may be shocked to find out that this has nothing to do with solar panels. Mr. Chair, board members, last weekend we held our deliberative session to vote on the school budget and the warrant articles that will be placed on the ballot in March. As we all know, the school budget has been criticized by many citizens on both sides for not being enough or for being too much. The majority of the budget committee members voted to cut the school board's proposed budget and return it to the prior year's approved budget figure. There were many reasons behind the rationale of proposing the cuts. The primary reason was the tax impact voters would face with not only the operating budget increase, but also the upcoming teacher contract that will be on the ballot as well. When faced with budget cuts, you began to see some creative proposals on ways to modify the budget. This is why the budget committee didn't recommend specific cuts, although we had them. The superintendent and the board worked together to craft an amended budget, and that was encouraging to see. Reducing a budget doesn't always mean eliminating teaching positions. Unfortunately, the first place anyone looks to cut are teachers. It's a tactic that instills fear in the teachers, where they will lose their jobs, and the public who fear their children will not receive an adequate education. Unfortunately, many of the suggested cuts that didn't affect teachers were not adopted. I have spent 2 years on the budget committee hearing about the behavior issues in our school. Being married to an educator, I've heard the same. The views cited at school board meetings and at deliberative session by other teachers express the same. It seems clear we don't necessarily have an education problem. We have a behavior problem at the root that leads to an education problem. I listen to teachers speak about how they have to be a mother, a father, a nurse, a therapist, a disciplinarian, a verbal punching bag, and having to deal with trauma. They stated that teaching isn't what it used to be 20 years ago. They use this reasoning to justify the need for the budget to be restored to its original proposed amount, and it passed. My question to the board is, when did teachers take the place of parents? When did teachers take the place of mental and behavioral health services? Why are teachers expected to perform these duties when they are tasked with educating children, not raising them? The one thing I didn't hear those teachers talk about that spoke at deliberative was how they taught kids to read, write, solve math problems, or study science. The reason? It's nearly impossible to teach children when everything else is distraction from what you're supposed to be doing. So how much money will fix the problem? How much more money does the taxpayer need to bleed out for behavior coaches and all the other positions that relate to mental health and behavior of our children? When do parents become responsible for the well-being of their own children instead of hurting the teachers, the school district, and the taxpayer? Special education has become an overly broad umbrella. There are some students who require legitimate services related to learning disabilities. That goes without question, and we need to provide those services to those children based on their needs. However, what we really need is something that is free. It costs nothing. We need parents to be parents and accept responsibility for raising their children. Discipline, respect, and responsibility are taught at home. Stop passing that responsibility off onto teachers. We need to do better raising our kids and stop expecting the school to do it. Return the focus back to reading, writing, math, and science. When teachers can return to what they're supposed to be doing, then you'll see scores in our district drastically improve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else for public input? Ms. Lochner?
My name is Julie Lochner. I'm a resident in town, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I'm a taxpayer, and I would like accountability for my tax dollars. From what I heard on Saturday, it sounds like there is a huge lack of discipline going on in the schools. And you guys are the professionals. Do the parents care about what's going on in the classroom? It's 2025, and it sounds like the schools are in chaos, and as one teacher said, in crisis, a major crisis. The board is spending 22 meetings on solar panels and energy efficiency projects. I spoke directly to a couple teachers besides the ones that spoke at the microphone at the deliberative. One teacher told me she gets sworn at every day by a student. Another teacher told me she's had a desk thrown at her. And I would like to know why the adults can't control the kids. This seems like insanity to me. Are the behavior coaches good at their job? I assume they all have training. I think we should maybe rename them the enforcers, not behavior coaches, so the kids know that they mean business. I don't know if the teachers speak up other than the deliberative session. I don't know if you guys have heard it before, that there's such a problem. I didn't know there was such a problem, and I've been on the budget committee for 4 years. It makes me understand now why the focus is not on the test scores, because it seems like they're just, the teachers are just trying to get through the day. And I do know one reason why more people don't come to school board meetings, and it's the reason that I don't come to more school board meetings, and it's because it's dinner time. And people are tired after they've worked all day and they have to feed their family. I do see later in your agenda that you're going to discuss discipline policy. And I hope it is a real discussion and not just words on a page, because we have to bring some common sense back. I care very much about this town and the parents and the teachers and the students and everybody. And this situation is not fair to the students that want to learn. It's not fair to the students that are misbehaving. What are we teaching them if they're allowed to disrespect a teacher or to swear at a teacher? Please bring common sense back, because this is supposed to be a place of learning. Thank you. And I don't know if you answer questions or not. I do have a specific question today. I was wondering if yoga is taught at schools in Raymond, or if they do yoga in school.
I mean, yes, we have movement breaks. We have yoga's part of it. There's a plethora of types of movements and calming and talking and all that. Yes.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's specifically yoga, but do we have a time where there's a time to
So it's
reflect?
not specifically yoga.
Well, I think there is in gym sometime, and I do think that some teachers do yoga during morning meeting and all that. Do I say every teacher does that? No. So yes, I hate to say it's Julie, yes and no. I don't want to say it's 100%, but I do know some people incorporate some.
Do you know if it's every school or just the elementary?
I don't know. I would say it's more likely at the elementary and middle than the high.
Okay.
I don't.
Could you get back to me?
Yeah.
I'm just curious if the parents have an option to opt out of that, if they even know what's going on, because I was praying about this whole situation and praying for the teachers and the students and everybody. And yoga just came into my mind because I've heard that they did that at the elementary school. So I Googled yoga, and Yahoo Dictionary said it's a Hindu spiritual and ascetic discipline, a part of which including breath control, simple meditation, and the adoption of specific bodily postures is widely practiced for health and relaxation. And I read into it quite a bit. I looked in the Merriam-Webster dictionary. It's a Hindu theistic philosophy teaching the suppression of all activity of body, mind, and will in order that the self may realize its distinction from them and attain liberation. So it's a spiritual practice. And my concern is a couple of things. I know you have a policy, ACD, which is a commitment to religious neutrality, which you adopted December 1st, 2010. And it looks to me like your practice of yoga violates that policy.
Julia, I wouldn't say that we are practicing yoga in that sense. In a sense that, do we teach kids how to take a relaxing breath and count to 10? To me, that's some form of, calming down. I don't think we're in it to the wording that you're using as such.
Okay, well, yoga includes like specific bodily postures.
Don't think we're doing that, but do we teach kids sometimes to take a breath? Absolutely. To me,
Okay.
that's a
That's
form of,
totally different. In
Well,
my world,
yeah.
it's totally different than yoga.
yeah, and mine,
Yoga is specific bodily.
no, I wouldn't say we get into where we're down on the mat and doing the stuff like that. No, we're not doing that.
Okay,
No.
all
But
right.
do we take calming breaths? Absolutely.
Because I was just gonna say, if you are doing it, it seems like it's not working, intended the way it's. You're looking for magic pixie dust, and I was just thinking that maybe this is, if it is a spiritual practice,
No.
maybe it's not a good practice.
We're not doing that.
But you said you don't really know what the teachers are.
I know they're not practicing that to that degree that you're saying. If you're asking me, do we teach some kids to take a calming breath, take a walk, have a seat, calm down? I would say yes.
Okay, that sounds very reasonable to
Yeah.
me. My question was about specifically.
Yeah,
about
no,
yoga.
I was talking in generalities, not
Okay,
specifics.
okay. Thank you very
You're welcome.
much. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your time.
Yeah, I think it's important that we speak to the discipline issues and behavior issues that are going on. And it's not new. The last number of years, we've had significant issues with behavior. And this is all age groups. But I think it's safe to say, Terry, that it's significant at the elementary school, more so than at the other levels. Terry has talked about these issues many times over the since he's been here. And I don't feel comfortable giving examples because I don't know if Terry would be comfortable with that. But there are instances where where this is generic. We have at the elementary school, we'll have kids walking down the hall, ripping everything down off the walls. We cannot touch them. We cannot stop them. We can talk to them and ask them to stop, but we physically cannot stop them from doing that unless they are a danger to themselves or somebody else. And that's just an example. Back in my day, if I was doing that, it wouldn't have gotten very far. I would have been stopped. We can't do that anymore. So we've been talking about behavior issues in this district since I've been back on the board, which was since 21. And Joe can speak to prior to that. But I don't think anybody's trying to hide anything that's going on. We're talking about it. We have our behavior I'm going to get this wrong, behavior health and wellness director come in just either last meeting or the meeting before in January. And she has data that talks about the issues that are going on. We're going to have the principals here
19th.
2 weeks from tonight. And there's going to be information provided to us regarding discipline. And we get that every quarter. We talk about it. And oftentimes, behavior issues that are arriving, we can't talk about in public. We are informed of things through Terry, through either non-public or other means. because it's just something that we can't talk about. But again, I will say that I agree, and this is just my opinion. I don't want to say that I'm speaking for the board, but I agree with Mr. Roy. We need more involvement from parents. And that just doesn't mean exclusively behavior. That just means more involvement. If you went to speak to teachers, regardless of behavior or academics, they'd all wish there'd be more involvement from their parents. There are some parents that don't communicate at all. And I think I'm not saying that's every grade level, but it's significant where we struggle with having some parents communicate with us. And there are parents that come in and say, we know Johnny is a behavior issue, and they work very hard with us to try to improve Johnny's behavior. And there are other parents that are much less involved. So we get the gamut of everybody with behavior issues. I don't know if Terry, if you want to speak to anything else that I missed.
I think you hit the nail on the head. And politically, I don't think there are a lot of resources outside other than what's here. So that can be a bit of an issue too. The court systems have changed, changes have changed. So it just makes it more on us as a school than it is on the community/state/system. So that can be problematic too. It just, I mean, I wish I could go into more details and be more specifics, but you'd be like, now I get it.
And
I know your hands are tied.
Yeah,
to some
but it's problematic
extent.
and I can say other districts, other superintendents, it's frustrating.
we have had BCBA's behavior certified behavior analysts, I think.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Basically those that are trained to take data and then do analysis of it to help improve the behavior of those people they're trying to help. But we just this is their year and a half now with us
Well,
as individuals that are hired by us. We've had contracted services before, and we're finding that the people that are working for us have more ownership of what they're doing within the buildings. We have the behavior coaches that was mentioned. We have two psychologists.
Yep.
We have Seacoast Mental Health that comes in and helps provide services for students that parents wish to have with their child. So there are a number of things that we're doing to help those students. And again, this is just me as one board member. I think the biggest hurdle we have is behavior in the buildings. Because as we know, if students are misbehaving, they're not just misbehaving on an island, they're misbehaving in front of everybody else and thus disrupting everything else that are going on. And some buildings, specifically, for example, the elementary school, if a student is upset in the hall, pretty much of the building is hearing it because those walls lend itself to quieting. Here at the high school and middle school, if that yelling is going on, it's dampened so that the doors are closed, people most part don't hear it. So I don't want to take too much time, but I know Steve wanted to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. We're not the only ones who are experiencing this in the past 5 years. Countrywide, there's been like I think it says 84% of public schools have indicated that behavior is negatively impacting students' learning. And in 23, 24, 26% of public schools reported lack of focus or inattention. So it's all of the stuff that we're talking about, that Terry's talking about, John. So we are experiencing it here for sure. But to say that it might be due to the folks that we have working here is sort of, it's not just here. The whole country is experiencing kids. There's been an increase. Some folks are talking about it because of the pandemic and kids didn't have to go to schools, however you want to attribute it. But it's not just Raymond and it's not just the folks that we have working for us. I don't think it's an issue with the people we have working. I think we have an issue countrywide. People, the schools, the parenting, the kids are having a harder time. And so what we have to do is come up with programs and have folks come in that help. And I feel very strongly that what we're doing is helping. We've seen a decrease in some behaviors over the last couple of years as our health and wellness director.
Sam.
Thank you. Goodness.
Sam Horrigan.
It's been a long day. As Sam has been reporting. So I think we're on the right path, but you're not wrong. We have a lot of work to do. And it's definitely something to talk about.
I guess I just like to see you, if it's a crisis, I'd like to see you spend more time on it. And maybe sometimes when you get together and you talk, you can come up with some out of the box ideas. It's not that we're worse than any other town, but, Terry is very practical and hands-on, and I think that's great. And maybe he could come up with some ideas.
I try really every day.
One of the, and it was mentioned, it's discussed often, but Sam Horrigan, I'm Director of Behavior Health and Wellness. I always,
Close enough.
the mouthful, whatever. But she was talking about the SIP team, and Terry can explain what the SIP team is, but they meet in the buildings. It's, SIT stands for what?
Student assistance team, student intervention team.
Intervention.
And they meet at all three schools. And if a student has an issue, they are talking about it. So we have the people that are, if the teachers are needed there, they're there. We have behavior health people there, administration when needed.
Yep. I was happened to be at the high school one just this week. And while I will also celebrate 2 or 3 successes of students that were on that list, and they were no at the high school, and I was taken back. And I looked at them, I said, "Are we serious?" Because I know who they are. So if I know who they are, you know what I'm saying? And so while those are some successes, we do have some. Do we need more? Absolutely, Julie. I'm not denying, but they sat in a meeting and I would say there was probably 7 or 8 adults, from social workers, SAP counselors, that'd be substance abuse counselors, to guidance counselors, to administration, sitting around talking about specific kids, talking about plans, talking about this worked, this didn't work. How can we get this kid access to this program so that they can be successful? Now, I will say, I think somewhat it's easier at the high school level because it's easier to communicate. I also think kids at the high school level have an understanding of what is right and what is wrong. You get that balance. Whereas at the elementary school, it's harder because their first instinct is to explode and continue to explode because you can't ration with them yet. And right, wrong, or different, I don't think they have the consequence. They understand the consequences of being sent home, of not being able to come to school. That's part of it. So you try to teach with them. It's more hands-on, or it's more, I think it's language and just providing a resource for the students here. So it's always, as I say, I think it's easier for me to talk to a high school kid too and say, geez, what are we doing here? Let's think about this. And, we all make mistakes. And I always think too, is when the high school kid can start to admit their mistakes, that's a long ways towards being successful. But we meet all the time. We're talking about it all the time. So we're not ignoring it. And I'm just going to be honest with you too. Sometimes while ultimately we can only suspend for so long.
Right.
Then I have to get that kid back in the building, and the parent can almost say, no, no, no. And I'm almost like, well, how do I take that student who is tearing the place up and bring them back into the school? Because I can't say no, because I'm out of compliance. I'm not providing FAPE. I'm not doing all of this stuff. So then it becomes what do I want to say? How do I make it work? I'm just being honest with you. How do I take this student and somehow bring them back in while still making sure that everyone is safe? Because I can't say no. I can't say,
Talk to the state.
I can't say you can't come back here when push comes to shove. Unless, I'll be honest, you bring a gun or a knife, then I got some wiggle room. But even after time, I'll be honest with you, after 2 or 3 years, I don't think I could say no.
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree with Jeff. I mean, he mentioned it. I mean, the schools only can do so much. I mean, there's a mental health crisis in New Hampshire. I mean, a student or something like that has an issue. There's really no place for them to go in New Hampshire unless their parents have money and they can afford for them to go somewhere to talk to somebody. I mean, the school is it right now in a lot of places. I mean, it's just not, we don't have the infrastructure in New Hampshire that we need to have for, people under 18. It's, they go to a hospital and sometimes they're there for weeks.
I was gonna say, I have students who say they're gonna hurt themselves and they sit in the emergency room for a month.
I mean,
And now I think, and I don't want to quote, but I think they've actually changed the rules on that too, where a parent has to stay. If a parent can't stay, then the kid goes home. I think, I got to do more research on that. That's a rumor I've heard, so I don't want to, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, like John was saying, if I started tearing stuff down at my elementary school, it would have lasted about 3 seconds. I would have got dragged out of that wherever I was at. My parents would have been called. And then it would have even been worse when my parents got there. So that just doesn't happen today. I mean, kids aren't stupid either. They know who to call, what to say, and all that stuff now. It's amazing how quickly kids can learn what they want to learn in this day and age.
Mr. Chair, can I comment?
1 minute. You all said, Julie.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. Go ahead.
I just want to make the point that we hear a lot about scores and teachers not doing their jobs. And like Joe just said, these kids have no other place to go. So you're taking away from them getting in the education that they're here to get. They're here getting services. There are obstacles that are keeping them from learning. So your test scores are going to reflect that. I just think that it's important that people realize that there are things that go on in the school. It's not that the teachers are failing or they're not doing their jobs. There's more going on in the schools that they need to understand, because I don't think a lot of people understand that we have these behavior issues and that teachers are dealing they're dealing with things that they never really had to deal with. It's not fair to the teachers to take the blame for things that they have no control over. If they're doing a bad job teaching and they're a bad teacher, that's one thing. But there's only so much you can do. When you have 4 or 5 kids in a classroom and the classroom's getting out of control, I mean, it's hard to teach. When you're trying to deal with all these things going on, it's difficult. So, I mean, I just think people need to know, because I always hear people talk about merit-based pay for teachers. And I think about how unfair that is, because you just don't know what's going on in that classroom, what the teacher has to do. So that's all. Thank you.
Anybody else go ahead. I don't want to get this moving, Steve. Otherwise, I'll let you speak, but I just want to.
It was about what Jeff said, so.
I just wanted to say thank you. I know that the budget is high. As a taxpayer, I'm really struggling with it, but I believe that some of the money we've already spent is working for us, coming from a parent and as a teacher. I think that overall, because of the problems we're having in the country, we're not seeing all the growth, but the pockets based on the programs that you guys have purchased for us are huge. I mean, just one example, the iReady program, we are expected to see about 100% growth over a year. I have a student that's been with me for 5 months and he's already at 267% growth. And there are lots of those kids. We're not going to see that on Squawks or any of these other sites. We're not going to hear about those kids, but they're there. And I do want to make mention that there is some yoga going on. However, it's because a community member donated mats, and we have lots of kids that ADHD, their anger issues, a little bit of it in the morning makes them feel great. And it's not the religious thing. We tie it to reading. So for example, my kids, the last one that we did was based on The Lion King, and she tells the story of The Lion King and they do yoga moves to the story. So we're connecting it to reading. It's not related to religion at all, but we're trying everything we can to relate the curriculum. And because as a parent, it was working for my child. And as a teacher, we're just trying to show you that we're doing our best with what we have. And I know that the community's not seeing it, but we're doing the best we can. And I think it's better than most people think we're actually doing. And like somebody else just said, the test scores that might not be showing it. But if you have a child that can't even sit in a seat and is destroying things, and within a few months they've calmed down and they're doing a little bit of math, even if it's 3 grade levels below, it's huge gains. And these programs and these people that you're giving us are helping us do that. And I appreciate that.
Thank you. If you could state your name.
Preston Wallace.
Thank you. Mr. McGuire?
Peter McGlynn, resident and Uber driver for the one. I had a thought. It's probably piggybacked off of everything that's been said here. And I was gonna say it during the other meeting, but there was too much budget stuff going on. So it may be redundant, but I think it's relevant. And I also have a suggestion that's free. So that might perk your ears up because everything deals with money and budget. So I'm a parent. I'm very involved and glad the principal's here because it's kind of like is tied into everything. My background, just to let you know, I'm a retired firefighter paramedic for 26 years and I was on the SWAT team. So I have a lot of background in this stuff and I think we need to distinguish, or you know what I mean? Like everyone needs to distinguish between behavioral and violence. You know what I mean? They're two separate things. So the behavioral coaches, you know, I was talking to a teacher and she was like, oh, great. I have an autistic kid in my class. That's awesome. You know what I mean? Like that's a structured thing that they need help for. And she said it goes on during middle school. I'm just involved in the high school because I had one that graduated. I'm not going to get into details. She got jumped, wound up going legal. I wound up in court. I mean, the whole deal. You know what I mean? So there's a ton of factors that we don't have, and I'm going to age myself like Mr. Chair did, because where I grew up and when I grew up, the teachers would cold cock me, you know what I mean? And that would be the end of it. Because I'm so involved, I come to every parent teacher, you know what I mean, meeting, you know, literally, and I have to gloat because my kid's here, but they always say, you're the parent we don't need to see. So piggybacking off Mr. Roy, the parents are a huge issue with this, in my opinion, because I talk to the teachers when I come in. I'm like, in my opinion, by the time you hit high school, if you're not taught how to respect an adult, and my mother was a special ed teacher for 30 something years, and teachers are, you know what I mean? They should be respected, just like police officer or anyone else. And again, you know what I mean? If I did something in the classroom, my teacher would probably whack me across the face and my mother would say, do it harder next time if he says anything. You can't do that nowadays. I get it. So the behavioral coach thing is great. You know, having resources, but I always hear the same catchphrase, come in. You know what I mean? And that's the issue, is that you can come in and have a plan. You can have yoga and bring in a goat. I don't know, like have a goat stand on him or whatever. That goat leaves, right? You know what I mean? There's, especially, and again, I'm kind of concentrating on the high school only because I'm involved in it. But I'm also a big, you know what I mean, advocate for Mr. Roy because he's got smaller kids and they're going to come up in the schools. And if you're in fear, and I don't just mean like behavioral fear, I mean fight fear, you're not going to be able to concentrate. You're not going to be able to take tests. You're not going to be able to do good. It's going to be a direct reflection of it. So I talked to the teachers. Their hands are tied. One of my kids' teachers had a UFC fight brawl in front of her. And the last time I came in to see her, I made a joke and I said, hey, any fights? And she's literally, I think she's PTSD. You know what I mean? Like, I think she's scarred for life. And I get it that they can't do anything. So I think it's more of a, if I had to put it in a law type term, deterrence and de-escalation. So with that being said, I mean, there's a vast amount of stuff, but when I was talking to that teacher about the behavioral coaches, because to me, that is kind of like a term for something like, you know what I mean? Fluffy that someone made up, and I don't want to downplay it, but I don't know, you know what I mean? We just had guidance counselors when I grew up. That's all we had. So, you know what I mean? It's great to have a behavioral coach, And she goes, oh, they come in, they make a plan, you know what I mean? And just to give you an example, you got a lot of testosterone going on, you got boyfriends and girlfriends in high schools. You can have a plan all day long. And when you go into the cafeteria and they say something about a girlfriend or something like that, all is breaking loose, you know what I mean? So it's all out the window. So it's great to have them come in, it's great to have a plan, but it's a dynamic situation. You know what I mean? So I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know how to address it other than there is one thing you can actually pop on Google right now. It's called Dads on Duty. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of it. It's free because dads volunteer. I've talked to parents about it. It's just brief background of it. I saw it on a clip and I thought it was the greatest thing ever because the teacher said, I said, what would you do when this fight broke out? She's like, I couldn't do a thing. You know what I mean? I had to watch this thing and she's literally scarred for life. You know what I mean? So Dads on Duties, it was South Louisiana, and there was a lot of gangs in the school and there was fights every day. So there was 5 dads that said, we're done with this. We will volunteer to come in every day and we will patrol the hallways. And I get it because my mom was a teacher and I get budget cuts and I get money and I get the whole spiel about that. And one teacher calls out and then another teacher's got to do 2 roles. And then they were supposed to watch how many people go in the bathroom. You know what I mean? There's 10 people in the bathroom and there's supposed to be 2. Then there's 20 and there's vaping going on. And then we got the phones, right? You know what I mean? We got social media. So the fights are almost elevated now because it's a big thing. You know what I mean? You get everyone posts it, the whole 9 yards. So this Dads on Duty thing, if you look it up, South Louisiana, 5 dads came in. They volunteered their time. They asked the principal, you probably got to jump through 10,000 hoops, I would imagine. But they're not there, you know what I mean? They're not there to knife the kids, but if you have people that are dedicated, you know what I mean, to that school, deterrence is usually the biggest thing. And I hate to say it, but if I was in school, I could probably talk a kid down because I'm someone other than a teacher. You know what I mean? It's kind of going to someone else instead of your parent to talk about something. So it's just an idea to throw out there. I've talked to a bunch of parents about it. I'm lucky enough to be retired. I guess because of my injuries, but you know what I mean? I that's something that I would do for my kid because no kid should have to go to school and be in fear. So there's a big distinction in my mind between behavioral issues, which can lead to violence, obviously, and just violence. And the violence thing is usually the big one. Because once a kid sees that isn't used to violence and or doesn't want to participate in that, they're just mortified. They don't want to come to school. You know what I mean? I've got neighbors that have seen stuff. Again, I know you can't say anything specific, but I know. There was a fight that, this kid, he got his hip broke. That's insane. You know what I mean? That's insane. And what happens is, as a paramedic, I don't think kids are, most of the parents don't know, but I would hate to see a fight break out. And I'm going to give you an example. Maybe it happened here, maybe it didn't. Someone got beat with a Stanley Cup. That thing might as well be a brick. You know what I mean? That thing, that is a weapon, a Stanley mug thing, repeatedly beaten in the cafeteria. And you know what I mean? That's I don't think a lot of people, and I don't blame them, that don't have a medical background, you hit that kid in the wrong spot, he's got to bleed in his head for the rest of his life. So not only is that kid screwed, the actual aggressor is now screwed. You know what I mean? Because he's probably now going to have a record. You know what I mean? It's just the thing that goes down the line. And it's just one of those things. So it was always one of those things. I thought it was a really cool idea, the Dads on Duty thing, the DOD. And I don't know how to make it work. I don't know if it can work. I just thought it would be something to throw out there because we're always looking for ways to fix things, but it's usually a money issue. You know what I mean? And as a parent and an involved parent and a parent that went through something that, you know what I mean, an incident, I would absolutely, be up for that. And I've talked to parents and I've talked to teachers and they said, that's a fantastic idea.
bring it up to someone. And I didn't honestly know who, because most of the time it's budget stuff and, you know what I mean? I'm a firefighter, I just break stuff, you know what I mean? I don't do numbers. So sitting here tonight, it was brought up, so I figured, yeah, this might be the time to just kind of throw it out there.
Can I add something that's kind of silly that I just want to point to?
Absolutely.
So the state, we all agree, is going to ban cell phones, outlaw cell phones. What's the consequence? Consequence the state will say is for a kid to bring a phone to school? None. So to me, see what I'm saying is like, okay, that's great, but what am I going to do? I can only suspend a kid so many times and send them home. You understand what I'm saying?
No, I get
There needs to
100%.
be some sort of,
They figure out
I hate,
it.
where you walk around, that sounds silly, with a $10 ticket,
Right,
start writing tickets, handing that kid, and I'm exaggerating.
right.
But then the parent's gonna be like, hey, put your phone away and don't get it out again. See, when I understand what you're saying.
100%
I'm like,
agree.
I get it. We're getting off on that path, but I'm sorry, John.
I 100% agree. Because I talk to the teachers, I
Yep.
talk to parents, I talk to staff, you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
and then when you say that, I know that
Yep.
your hands are tied, like I know. So in my mind, I'm just trying to think of different ways. And try to determine what goes on and maybe de-escalate it before it gets to that point. Because I understand, like, we can pull up stats all day long and this happens, and I 100% agree with you. Because of COVID, coming out of it, kids don't know how to talk to each other, phones, you know, blah, blah, blah. But my focus is Raymond, because I'm a resident here, my kids go to school here. You know what I mean? So I want to make Raymond safe, Raymond schools safe. And I don't care about the other, I mean, I do, but you know what I mean? I don't, like, I want to make Raymond safe. And I'm willing to do whatever it is. I know there's parents that are willing to step up to do it. I don't know if it's a, you know what I mean, possibility, but I mean, I know because I was probably one of those kids that was a behavioral kid, you know what I mean? Because I was just, you know what I mean? I mean, we grew up at a different time. But I'm pretty sure I can see things going on before they escalate and possibly de-escalate it. You know what I mean? Because it's simple. You know what I mean? It's simple. It really is. When you grab a kid and you say, hey, listen, is it really worth it right now? Like, seriously. It's a boy, it's a girl. You know what I mean? Like, it's a girlfriend, boyfriend. It's not. You know what I mean? And you can just talk them down. When they hear it from a teacher, they probably in their head, they're going blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? This is what a teacher has to say, you know what I mean? And that type of thing. And I mean, I wish there was a way to penalize the parents. You know what I mean? Like, I'm 100%, you know, in favor of if a kid shoots up the school, but the parent didn't lock the gun up, the parent should go to jail also. You know what I mean? I wish we could do that with violence, you know what I mean, in the schools. Because again, I'm not the one that the teacher needs to see during the conferences, you know, so they say. But it was.
Very good, guys.
You know, I mean, it's sad to see the state that the teachers are in now. You know what I mean? That they can't do anything. Because one of the teachers that I still keep in contact with, he kind of got run out of here. You know, because of the situations that were going on. And I hear stories from my kids and other kids when they come over. And I asked one of the teachers, I said, let me ask you a question. I said, did you ask the kid nicely, you know, can you please, he literally said, can you please put your phone away? It was a phone. Can you please put your phone away until the end of class? F you, right to his face. And I said, to me, that's a parent problem. Because if you come into high school and you can't treat a teacher with respect, it starts from the home. You know what I mean? So I don't know. There is no way to hold the parents accountable. I've gone over it in my head about 1,000 times because, you know, again, the phone thing's a huge thing. If the phones ever get taken away, I mean, you know, they've gotten taken away and then the parents will call up. They'll be on the squads. You know, I'd be like, my kid's keeping his phone. You know what I mean? They don't want to comply to what the rules are in school. And I think that's a direct correlation of how that kid's probably acting. You know what I mean? If the parents can't take responsibility, then the kids probably can't take responsibility and don't know how. So, I mean, it's just one of those things. I mean, take a look at it. I thought it was a pretty cool idea. And I don't know the exact numbers, but the rate of violence in that school went down. Like, I think it was like 92%, like 92%. Just by having the deterrence of a bunch of big fathers walking around, not being bullies or anything like that, just,
Yeah, my dad was.
to know that they're there.
Thank you.
So appreciate your time.
I've got Steve and then Joe.
And thank you for that. So a couple things, it's gonna go back to Jeff real quick too. So I think you're saying, there were a couple comments about the people, and people don't know, but I think the parents know. I think the families know. To your point, I think you made it pretty well. People who have kids in the school are very much aware of the issues of disrespect all the way up to the violence, right? It only really takes one child. My daughter was in a situation where it only took one child to disrupt the entire class. It doesn't take 2 or 3, which is one of the reasons why I'm pretty adamant on class sizes, because to your point, if someone's out, now you're doubling up huge classes. And I think what we're in a situation of, because I hear this all the time, I hear people talk about it, I see it on all the pages, that everyone's mad because our test scores are low. And I think they're getting better from the numbers I'm seeing. But I think the part that's important that we're not taking into account is test scores aren't the only measure of success today. In today's world, because we have all the situations we've just spent a lot of time talking about, we have to measure success holistically. A child is not just reading, writing, math, and science. A child is emotion and behavior, and there's a lot to a child. Arts, whether they're available or not, sports. So holistically, as we evaluate how our students are and how they progress, the student that Terry was talking about earlier, where we had successes at the high school meeting, those 2 students who had shown behavioral successes, their test scores may not have gone up, and in fact, might have gone down. But that student is showing a better capability to learn because they're able to handle their behavior. And if we focus just on numbers, we have a tendency to focus on budget becomes a problem because we don't have a choice in some situations, right? But we focus on numbers and statistics, but we forget that a correlation doesn't imply a causation. Test scores going down and money going up doesn't always mean that there's a cause there. It just means those 2 things exist at the same time. There's a holistic image of a child that includes their emotion and their behavior, and the success of an entire child should be, yes, on their learning. We want their test scores to go up. We want to have kids who leave this school well prepared for life. But well prepared for life isn't just how many books they read, as much as we want them to read, or how much math they can do, whether they're doing trig or barely balancing a checkbook. They have to be able to live in the real world with the consequences that you're talking about. If we don't prepare them to live in the world where other people are that they may not get along with, and do that with some semblance of decorum, then we've failed that child, even if they have the highest test scores. So I'm not saying we shouldn't focus on test scores. We absolutely need to teach these kids everything they could learn. I'm just suggesting that maybe we broaden our definition of success to include those other elements, so that we can talk about kids who are well balanced across all measures and not just educational numbers.
I think it's perfectly said.
Wait a minute. Please wait. Are you all set?
I'm good. Yeah, thank you.
You can go ahead if you want. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say it was perfectly said, you know what I mean? Because I taught EMS education for almost 28 years, and there's people that just can't take tests, period. They're smart. They're smarter than I am. You know what I mean? But they cannot take a test. That's just a fact. You know what I mean? They get nervous when the test is put in front of them. They panic. They don't know what to do. So I 100% agree with what you're saying. And I'd rather see a well-rounded child come out, with respect and with, some dignity and, that type of thing than just a number on a piece of paper. So I 100% agree with that. I didn't mean to cut you off. So,
I'm good. Thank you.
go ahead, John.
So one of the things we discussed, I haven't heard of the dads on duty, but we have discussed having volunteers. We have needed volunteers for quite a while. Dads on duty probably go a little bit more into escalations and how to de-escalate, which I'll leave that up to Terry and his group to figure that out if we can get it. But yeah, anybody can volunteer, please. We have the volunteer paperwork. You gotta go through your background check if you're gonna be here all the time and stuff like that, but that's definitely something, we're always asking for. Phones, yeah, you said it. Yeah, we looked at taking away phones completely and not even having them in the classroom. You thought I was taking everybody's lunch money away from them when that discussion. We had parents in there, I need to contact my kid when I have to contact them. Really? I'm in school. I mean, if something goes wrong, we'll let you know. But it's just the world we live in, it seems, but you're right. I mean, I'd love to.
All right. All right, next up.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Student representative to the school board.
So I saw our agenda today and this is kind of on actually public input. So I talked to a few students because I wanted to see their opinions since I am not necessarily the student that gets all of the problems and I get all of the consequences for them, but I know people who are and they're great friends. They're just not that great in a school setting. And I'm sorry to tell you guys, I don't know how effective they are because we've had the searches done. We have a huge vape problem and that is worldwide right now. But we do these searches because we have the vape detectors go off. We have students who are constantly vaping during class or out of class. I can at least think of 5 students off the top of my head that have been searched multiple times, have a vape on them, and their vape isn't found. So they think that they can just get by because there's no other repercussions. They didn't find a vape. I can also think of students off the top of my mind who purposely don't want to be in school. They don't think they should have to be here. They can't drop out because they just can't due to their circumstances. And so they purposely get out of school suspension because they know their parents won't reprimand them. They know it's a freebie out to go work on their projects. So unfortunately, the way that we are treating it, and even the in-school suspension, that's not working out as much as I hope it would. So unfortunately, that's reflecting the kids because, and I hate to sound like a screenager. I swear I'm not on my phone all the time, but I have studies, and in my studies, I use my phone for VLAX. I have to take photos to submit. I work with a classmate to work on VLAX. I'm in 4 VLAX classes right now, and I'm constantly getting yelled at from my phone. So I put it away, but then I can't submit my work. So I'm limited my resources, even though it's a study hall. So it's my use of time, and I understand that we want to encourage kids to do schoolwork, but sometimes it's that I need my phone, or that sometimes I need to look at emails, or I need to have a split screen, and I can't necessarily do that. So I don't want to advocate for the kids who are using their phones and disrupting classes and disobeying teachers, because I've seen that in my classes. But phones are very important, and I think that even just in studies, they shouldn't be as reprimanded as they are. And I think that if parents do have a problem with that, I know parents have a problem with everything, at least one parent, and I understand that it's a big problem. But I think that studies, we should have something sent out. Your kid's study is their use of their time. Unfortunately, the teacher is not teaching anything in that class. It's their use of time. Because I get yelled at from my phone, and there's 6 kids in front of me on their phones. But I can't tell the teacher, why can't they be on their phones? I'm scared. I don't want to be reprimanded by those kids for calling them out. That's just something I wanted to bring up, that a lot of the sources that we try to use as consequences don't work as well. Or a lot of the things that we're nitpicking right now don't need to be nitpicked. We need to focus on those big problems, because I've witnessed straight up like WWE fights in my classes. And instead we're like, can you please put your phone away? Or can you put your phone in the phone caddy? Or please don't go out that door to SST, go out the other door. Like, we have so many bigger problems, and it's so sad just seeing this, like, teachers dedicate their time to these small problems when there's so much bigger problems going on, or prevention that could be happening. So I just want to bring that up because that's from the student's perspective, and I talked to a lot of other students who are in very different situations. So I am representing the whole school, so got to get my words from everyone. And then I also have the sports that are happening this week. So
What was my update?
sorry, it's my report. So wrestling did have a meet at Pelham today at 6. So wish them luck, a little late, but wish them luck. Thursday, the boosters meeting's at 7 p.m. and 2:11 here. So shout out to the boosters. They do a lot. They're great. Friday, there's a girls basketball game at Belmont at 5 p.m. There's also a boys basketball game, home versus Belmont, JV at 5, varsity at 6:30. Saturday, there's a bowling meet, home at 10 a.m. and our first cheer competition of the season at Nashua. So wish them luck. They're very excited. I talked to a lot of cheerleaders. And Sunday, our track state meet at Plymouth is happening at 10 a.m.
Awesome.
Thank you, Marissa. John.
Okay. I gotta make sure I put that in there that my daughter may need her phone for VLAX, so I don't yell at her about taking out
So
a.
just to clarify, if you want to talk about why you need your phone as opposed to the
Yeah, I was-
Chromebook?
So on my
Maybe
Chromebook, I can take screenshots, but sometimes the screenshots that I'm able to take on here, they don't translate to the same amount of gigabytes that I can turn in. So sometimes they come out blurry or they don't capture the right thing. So that is a problem that I have. So I turn them in on my phone. And no offense, I'm very grateful that we have these Chromebooks. I know our budget is so strict, and I'm very grateful that we have these resources, but they're very slow, even with the Wi-Fi. I have a home computer that I use here as well. I have an ELO.
How old is yours?
My Chromebook or my home one?
Your Chromebook?
Not a clue.
We might have newer ones, so come see me or email me.
Mhm.
Okay?
So I just wanted to talk about that too, and I still use my Chromebook. I'm very grateful that I have it. It's a great resource, holds battery great. But not only that, sometimes you have to do collaborations and year-long VLAX courses, at least one. So I have a student who does 2 of the same VLAX courses as me. So sometimes I have to take photos of her work to turn on my computer, and I can't do that. So that's a big thing. And I also need to look at my phone because sometimes it's our messages. I also have to turn those in for proof of collaboration.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Next,
Getting all that, Pete?
What's up?
Did you get all that?
Got it all?
Thank you.
next up, Raymond High School 2025-26 Program of Studies. I see Pete has the big guns in tonight, so evening, Tricia.
Thanks, John.
How would you like to do this, John? Would you like them to go through? We do the math later, or do the math first?
Math.
How would you like to?
Why don't we do this first?
Okay.
Good.
Be right back.
So I'm assuming you guys all had a chance to look through the program.
We were given it, yes, so thank you.
So if it's okay with you, we'll just start and go through anything that's in red for changes or strikeouts. Does that work? So our first one is on page 4. Changed core values and expectations to core values and beliefs. Which matches, I believe, so we no longer have a district mission statement, right? Because didn't that, the
portrait of a graduate takes the place.
Yep, so that's why I crossed that out and then added portrait of the graduate with the new logo.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Since I don't know you, and I know you did this last year, right? So, do you work at the school? What's your position?
I am a school counselor.
School counselor. Okay. I was just curious, just where you're coming from, like expertise wise. I'm wondering why it is changing from expectations to beliefs.
I believe that matches what is in the district. Sorry, somewhere. Where do you?
It was in the,
Is it in the student handbook, maybe?
I'll have to pull that back up, where that application is, but that was to mirror what's already been publicized.
Right.
In it, in the student handbook.
Expectations didn't match what was already
Existing someplace else?
as someplace else. Thank you.
So combining.
So like, where did we get the word expectations and where did the beliefs word come in? Like, at some point, somebody put that in there. Why are we changing it to,
Beliefs, and so I changed it to beliefs to match what was publicized.
This was specifically I'm just pulling this back up, the core values and beliefs. This is specifically for the high school. And this was done several years ago.
I believe so.
Yeah. So this is where this has come from. This isn't district, this is school level. And I don't know what Tricia and Pete are saying is that the expectations someplace else isn't the way it's termed. It's termed core values and beliefs. So they're just updating it in this book to reflect what it is like
yeah, I got
elsewhere.
that part, but where is it elsewhere? Like on
I think Pete's
a
working on that.
handbook or
Pull
something?
that up right now.
And I was just wondering, is this like just you two collaborating and making these changes, or was
No, we
this?
work the whole building really. We
Oh,
work with
okay.
the Department heads, they work with their specific departments on any changes to studies.
I just feel like expectation is a different type of word than beliefs.
I think if you look down when it
Mhm.
says under core values a little bit further, if you read the
Yeah, I did
sentences,
read that.
it's not about the student, it's more about, what we hope
What we believe.
and what we
for-
practice. That
Okay.
wouldn't be an expectation.
Here and there.
More of a we, us type thing. So it's more about the beliefs of the entire school district. Yes, we hope we have expectations for us. I think meeting that section could be beliefs because expectations kind of doesn't make sense with the sentences, to be honest with you.
And if you look below that, Cindy, it
Mhm.
says core values and then it says beliefs, so those.
Yeah, I just kind of figured that it was changed because of that, but it was already there and
match.
I hate to muddy the waters, but I'm gonna have to. The student handbook says the Raymond High School mission and expectations. Interestingly enough, so we've got a different, if we can standardize it, whatever way you folks want to do it, in my mind is.
I just made note of that, 'cause I pulled it up there.
Yeah.
It does say that, but underneath it goes into core values and beliefs.
Well, my thought was originally when we did like the portrait of a student, we were kind of thinking about what we want the student to, after we do our magic, the student is this. So I kind of was thinking, when I read that as expectations, I was thinking that's what we're looking at, what we want for the future of our students. But I understand now you're saying, it's what we believe as a school. I mean, what they actually come out believing or whatever is kind of individual, but, so I see what you're saying, but it just, I guess doesn't seem cohesive to me.
Anything
Go
else?
ahead.
Okay. And then on page 6, so we changed the wording. This is in the student handbook. So we changed the competency-based grading description with the grade scale to match what's in the student handbook.
On the bottom of page 6, you're talking about, for example, I have an issue with the course credit will be issued upon earning an overall grade of 70% or better, and a 70% or better in all competencies. The reason why we just don't say all that except for, and then upon earning 70% or better in all competencies. Because you need it doesn't matter. For example, I can have an 80 and I can still fail the class because I failed a competency. So isn't it better to say you need 70% or better in all competencies? Because we have people still looking at grades and not understanding that the competency is really what you should be looking at. And that's why I personally, and nothing you folks can do, I personally think we should have, for the parents anyways, what shows is the letter grades when we go up into the, students' grades. It doesn't show competencies, it shows the letter grades. It should be showing competencies because if Johnny is below 70 anywhere, I should be worried, even though because I'm looking at it and he's got an 80, I'm thinking, bad, dumb and happy, everything's good. But go ahead, Joe.
Yes, I see where I know the grade does change when I get my daily emails about my students. If something happens, it will go, it's an F if that person fails, it's failing a competency. The only problem is you would know what competency by looking at that email that I get in every day anyhow. So, I mean, parents do look at the grades because, well, that's the only thing we're really given. Because we're not given, I mean, God, if we had the competencies to go along with the grades, that might be a 55-page essay to read every time we get an email in high school. So I think that's probably the biggest issue right there is that it's very hard. I mean, unless you go on Power School and you look up every single one, that's the only way you would find out.
So my question is it redundant to say upon earning an overall grade of 70% and then go on to say, and a 70%, or just saying you need a 70% or better in each competency? Because at the end of the day, that's where they're being judged by.
We can do that. We can get rid of the,
Okay.
overall.
But anything we can do to help communicate that? Because I don't know if we still have the issue of parents not realizing or students not realizing. I'm an 80 student, but my competency is holding me back.
I think the students understand.
But the parents,
They're getting there.
yeah,
They're getting there.
John?
So upon earning a grade of 70% better in all competencies.
I'm gonna muddy the water a little bit even more here. And I don't know this because it hasn't happened to me. I mean, if a student fails a test, say they have 4 competencies on it, they fail 3 competencies, but they pass at the next test. So they, overall, but they're still failing their tests. Could they technically pass competencies and still fail tests?
yes.
Yes.
So, but
I think you would, that's
why you would need both on here, because secondly, you would still fail the class because your grades aren't good enough, but your competencies would be. You're still failing tests though.
No, you can't.
percentages.
So you're saying if you're just going by competencies alone,
If you pass all your competencies, you've passed the exam.
Passing your test.
That's in,
You will end
You
up
pass
passing
the
your
class.
test. You will, yeah.
and if you fail any competency in your class, you have the ability to go back and fix it. And then, once you fix it, you're hopefully passing. And then you're passing your class. But the thing I think people are still, and they're just saying the students get it. It's people like myself, the parents, that might not see that yet.
Right.
Or, because it's been talked about since this change a year ago or so, whatever it was. And I just want to make sure that it's, anytime we can be more precise in what's going on, to communicate that.
even here, I thought you had to still pass both. Your tests and your competencies.
You have to have an overall grade in the class of 70 or higher and pass your competencies with a 70 or higher.
I don't think,
That's different than what we're
but
talking.
I don't think you could pass
Yeah.
the test. Or you could pass the test.
Yes.
No, you could fail the test and pass your competencies. if you have more than
No, you
one.
can't, because you're gonna have to get a 70 on every one of those competencies, which means you pass.
Which means you did end up passing. Yeah.
But if you have 4 competencies.
And you passed them
fail
all.
3, you pass 1. The next test, you pass 2 more, but you fail the test because you failed the other 2. Then the next one, you can sit there, so you technically you still have a 70.
Oh, my gosh. Who's on first?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's,
Well, to be as simplistic as possible, if there are 2 competencies on the test, I'm taking the test and I pass one and say I get 90 on that and I get a 60 on the competency, the other one, I failed that. My grade at the end of the day is above 70. So it looks like I passed the exam. What I really did is I passed half the competencies and failed the other half. And that's what we've got to be looking at, is the competencies only. The final grade is great. If you got 100, that means no issues. But it's the competency that you gotta worry about. And all I'm trying to do is, again, to clean it, to make it so that the parents are understanding what the situation is that you need to pass your competencies. The final grade on a test might not be truly reflective of what happened.
So is it possible for,
I was gonna say, is it snow? Yeah.
is it,
You're canceling.
you're calling me?
School's canceled.
You just answered my wife's question.
Stay here later now. You can do the whole night. Sorry, Dad.
Bring that up, but I didn't want to, I was.
Oh, thank God. I did not want to go tomorrow, guys.
So is it possible to pass the competency but get a failing grade on the class? Not a quiz, not one test.
If you pass all your competencies, you've passed the class.
There's no way to get a 60 in the class and pass all that they
Mathematically not possible.
not possible. Okay. I'm like, because I saw what you were saying, but I'm like, if it's not possible,
If you
then
think about, if on an exam, you get 70 on 5 parts.
Yeah.
What do you get at the end of the day? A
a
70.
350. Oh, we're not doing one.
No, we're not doing that. But it's a 70 at the end of the
A 70.
day.
I
Okay.
just take my test and hope.
There you go.
I don't start doing extra
So,
math.
are you all set, Tricia, on that?
Yes.
We've
All right.
beat
Sorry.
this thing to,
To death.
Yeah, we're on page 6 here. I can't.
Yeah, really.
We only got
I'm like,
70 to go.
oh.
We're already half an hour behind schedule.
So then on page 7 at the top, I got rid of that because we replaced it with the stuff on page 6.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so the next page is page,
before you go on, Tricia, on page 8.
Yep.
If we could, this is just my line of thinking, if we can have 4 columns, the 2 columns that exist for class 26 and 27, and then 2 columns for the class of 28 and beyond. Because it's, for me, it's hard to figure out what, you've got an asterisk there and 2 asterisks. And to me, it would be just easier if we had 2 columns to do. And in the past, we've done that sort of thing where, I don't know if you remember the class of 2024, I think had some things where we had to do and beyond. Do you understand what I'm asking?
one additional column for the class of, starting with the class of 2028 with the social.
It would be
studies
2. So
page.
there'd be the, what are the conditions for the class of 28 and beyond for Raymond High School diploma and then the honors diploma. So there'd be 4 columns as opposed to the current 2.
Can we just add a page and
I can try to get that.
yeah.
Or another
Why don't
chart.
we just add another page because I think that
Whatever works, but I just so that
But you
it's
just wanna
clear.
put that in.
Go ahead, Marissa.
I have a question about page 8 on the graduation requirements. I know it says that the class of 2028 social studies requirements will change to 3 credits. And right now it says you need 2.5 for both diplomas. I've been to guidance plenty of times. I'm confused because if you go down, it says what you need required for history. And it has world history, US history, which are both year-long courses, and economics and government, which are both half year. So all of those add up to 3 years anyways.
Yes.
I don't know. I know that's very confusing for me.
So I can explain that. So the state of New Hampshire requires a credit of world social studies. We used to offer a half a credit of world geography, which covered that requirement. And that's why you really only need 2.5. For world history, you get a full credit, so that additional half a credit goes towards your electives.
Okay.
Because you're the class of 2027, correct?
Technically, yes. I was just confused because I know when I went to guidance, I asked my guidance counselor, and I was like, well, I'm mandated to take these 3 years of classes. So it gets me by 3 credits, but since they're all mandatory, I feel like it should say 3 because I was confused because I was like, wait, stop matching up. And she literally, I love her, but she just told me, she said, I don't know. She said,
So
just ignore the
if a student,
handbook.
You know, decided to do their world social studies through HELACs or some other means, then they only need a half a credit. Half a credit is what's required until you get to the class of 2028. They need full credit.
I did not know that.
Tricia,
I could have done that, guy.
do we have at Raymond any half credit courses that would
Meet that requirement?
meet that requirement?
Not now, we don't know.
So would it make sense then for the class of 2028 to go 3.5? Because that's in essence what it's going to have to be.
No, it's gonna be 3. It's currently 2.5.
The state's gonna make it 3.5 because they're gonna make New Hampshire
Well, what I'm saying,
coming up. Okay, sorry.
what I'm saying though is,
Quiet, Terry.
what I'm saying though is right now, the class of 28 are freshmen and they're taking a full credit of social studies. And they have to, because there isn't freshmen.
Correct.
So in essence, we're making them do, I don't want to, that's why I'm trying to say is make it 3.5 because the New Hampshire part is coming soon.
Yeah.
Correct.
We do offer great history classes.
Anyway.
Class of 2028, world history, government economics, and US history. That's 3 credits total.
Yep. But then we're gonna have, okay, until we have the New Hampshire. Thank you. I was jumping the gun.
And then the ASPO requirement has gone away.
Yep.
That up. Page 9, under co-curriculars, excuse me, I have, added a French club because that's new this year, and, Pastry Alliance changed their name to Diversified. And I just indicated that the classes that have an asterisk are credit-bearing courses.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Cindy.
So, this diversified club, is this like a student-led club? How does this work?
I have an advisor.
Why did they change the name?
I could change that. I think just to be more inclusive.
What was the name? It was Gay Straight Alliance. Now it's Diversified Club. And I think that happened 2 years ago, last year,
Because
maybe 2.
last year was my first year and it was the Diversified Club
Okay.
as well.
Yeah, so I think it happened pre-peak.
Does that word like cover what the intention of the club is?
Yes. Page 10, so, the English department has made some changes to some of the courses. So the English department has renamed and done a new description for their freshman English class. We will get to that later in the program. So I just put that under the, suggested course of study, along with a change in some of the math. Labeling that, so, you know, our, honors pre-calculus is, a running start, no early college class that we do here at the high school. So that's why we added the Community College System of New Hampshire label. And then calculus, we are hopefully, it's not completely finalized, but most likely will happen, running that as an early college class also in conjunction with SNU. And there will be more of a description about that later in the program as well.
For sure. Why are we eliminating AP Calc?
Oh, because we're doing it, with. So calculus will be in conjunction with SNU and then, and/or AP Calc. So if we do it with SNU, students are guaranteed a better chance of getting the college credit, where with the AP, you get a certain score.
Yep.
College credit.
And if you're taking that level of class, from what I've heard from colleges when I visited, they want to see the AP. If you've got AP, I want to see you taking those. They go as far as to say, well, if you're not good in math, then don't take math, but take yourself exposed to what your else school has. And to me, it doesn't make sense to take AP Calculus. Because as you know, the whole idea is they're all taking the same standardized test so that colleges know that you got a 4 on that, very good, right? Or if you've got a 2, then
And you don't get the college credit.
But again, it also important for kids that are trying to go for those schools to have AP. And also the ability to then get credit because they don't necessarily get SNU credit at a particular college, but they will get, depending on the school, some I've heard 3 above, 4 above, 5 above, or 5, right? It depends. And I know that. But I think it's really important that we continue to offer AP. And coincidentally, we offer AP in computers, English, 2 of them, social studies, 2 of them, science, 3 of them. And we're gonna not offer 0 in math. It doesn't make sense.
So I just think there was concern about the scores on the tests and a lot of
What?
the scores on the AP test. And a lot of students not getting the scores to get the credit.
We got 2, 3, and 4. No, what is it? 2, 3, 4, and 5, I think, last year. Terry? I don't understand why.
I don't understand why we're changing stuff too. I just don't know. I thought I was,
Because again, we're offering AP everywhere else but in math. And we're offering 3 in science. And I'll ask the question. I think I know the answer. When's the last time we ran AP physics?
Oh, God, I don't even remember.
Well, I'm gonna ask that it just be removed because we just don't have enough kids. I know of one instance when there was one student that was interested, but nobody else. So we're not gonna run a 1 and that student knew better to ask for it. Go ahead, Marissa.
I have a question because I'm very, very excited to hear that we're offering one SNU course because I just recently looked into it for early college. Would that be in the school or would that be one of their on-campus ones?
No, that would be here,
Okay,
but I'm not sure that we're gonna do that if we're gonna stick with the AP. I don't think.
I just had a question.
Yeah, you wouldn't have
Right.
the enrollment to do it. We struggled to get that a high level or calculus at all. I think, right? That's a faith.
Yes,
Because I think we have 4 now
I think so.
and 4 last year, and it usually hovers in that range.
I know I was very excited to hear that SNU offered those early college courses because for the actual online eStore, you can't take courses with labs, which a lot of at least competitive colleges require a lot of science courses with labs, and SNU allows you to go on campus and do the labs. So I was actually going to go to guidance the other day and ask if we would be one of the schools to comply with them, but I didn't know if you were able to. So
So do you wanna, are we gonna?
Let's resolve whether we're gonna keep AP Calc or we're gonna go with the SNU/Calc.
Right.
Go ahead, Joe.
With the SNU, I thought that was more of a college course. I know like the AP, you gotta take the test. I mean, like even if you do bad on a test in college, you pass, you pass. So is the SNU, I know that not all colleges take it. I mean, Harvard's not gonna take a. What? Yeah, sorry. They're not gonna take, certain credits that you can take at high school no matter what. There are a lot of colleges that are like that. I wish I know we're coming up to that, but if we could have an asterisk sitting there saying that all colleges may not take that. I mean, they just might not.
Do have that.
Yeah, it's in there
It's in a different area.
somewhere.
They must have missed it.
And that's the
We haven't gotten to
thing.
that page yet, John.
And that's the thing that I'm talking about. There are, UNH, I think, would take. There are other colleges that are more competitive that won't accept that credit because they weren't there.
I'm going to say this, a guy that transferred a lot and did a lot of work, from going to Macon College, to Mercer, to Wright State, to the University of Dayton. I want to say, and I'm just going to say I needed 120 credits to graduate, and I wound up with almost 200. To the point where I had to walk into the dean's office and say, if I'm not graduating, we're going to have a problem. To the point where I started my postgraduate at Plymouth, and UNH wouldn't take Plymouth's credits. To the point where I had to write a letter and say, we are talking about 2 state universities, or what are we doing here? So I always, while I think it's great, unless that student's saying they're going to SNU, what's the advantage? Other than saying I got some college credit. If you're going to SNU, that's great. But if you're not,
No guarantee that it's.
So I know SNU is a school that does it on their website too. It does list a lot of the colleges that you can transfer those credits to, because they're a very worldwide college. My sister currently attends there. She didn't have the option to do early college, but I know that not only do they list it, and if students are interested in going to SNU, they do have the 3+3 plan and the 3+4 plan. So that's a really good for medical. That's a really good plan. So I was just interested because SNU is the only one that I've heard of that has labs. And I looked at their list of colleges that you can transfer credits out of, and a lot of competitive programs, for example, radiology, what I want to go to, you need stuff with labs to separate yourself, especially if you're someone graduating early so young. And you can see the other schools that do work with SNU for those credits on campus, and they offer a ton of courses. And SNU also, it's $100 for a course, and then if it's a lab, it's $125. So you're saving a lot of money. And even if it's not transferable, it looks really good.
Do they get any other credit for it aside from college credit? Like no credit here?
Well, they get credit here too.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not like they're not getting anything.
no, but I guess the question is if a kid does want to go to Dartmouth, just, let's talk that. Can they go because they don't have the AP?
Well,
I'm just,
it's not that they can't go. It depends on what's offered. If AP calculus is not offered, it's not like Dartmouth is going to say, we're not taking you because you didn't take AP calculus. What they want to know is that you expose yourself to other high-level courses within the program of study. And as you know, Pinkerton probably has a few more APs than we do.
Yeah.
It's a guess, Tricia, but I think it's a safe one.
So I guess that's the conundrum of when we're at what we have.
Right. And I don't know why we would take away AP. I just don't understand it. So that's
I'm
what
assuming we don't have enough students for both classes.
No.
That's correct. Like I
This
said,
is the conundrum we're in.
if we have a calculus course, probably gonna be one size fits all. Anybody that wants to take calc is gonna have to take that.
So I don't know a lot about the AP class, and they're mentioning a test you have to take at the end, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Is it possible that you could give this new class and still allow kids to take the AP Calc test?
I'm not sure.
I
I'd have to look down.
Yeah.
And I also know that.
But I believe anybody can take an AP test.
So the only reason I'm asking is the SNU test, the SNU class sounds like it gives some extra options, but restricts the AP. But if we have kids who can take the SNU Calc class and still take the AP test, and it sounds to me like what the colleges are going to look for is a high score on the AP Calc test. It doesn't matter if it came from an AP Calc class.
Is Tom teaching it? Calculus? Or is it a SNU professor?
No, it would be a teacher here.
Oh, okay.
Just to be clear, the AP scores aren't seen by the colleges. They just know you're taking them. The only time they would see them is, for example, if you took them before your senior year, because they're published in the summer.
Correct.
So that if I'm a senior this year and I'm taking an AP course, the school that I'm going to go to won't see those until the summer. I've already been accepted.
Right.
I've already got the merch.
Gotta get the merch.
Gotta get that
Gotta
hoodie.
get the merch.
Gotta get the hoodie.
Where it's indicating that the student is taking that.
Okay,
Yep.
that's why I was asking. So obviously it does matter what's on the transcript, whether it's a SNU Calc or an AP Calc.
And then
Okay.
it will also help you potentially, for lack of a better way of saying it, skip over some classes at college. You might not have to take introductory something.
Right.
Because you've got AP and your AP score was reflective well enough where they know that AP score is good because it's international, right? It's not just nationally, it's internationally. These are students are taking.
And it can't be a SNU/AP class. It can't.
I don't, because again, when the teachers are teaching it, they're teaching it in addition to the content, but they're also gearing you up for the AP course. I mean, the AP exam.
And that would like when, if it's through SNU, you would be following the SNU, like syllabus. And if it's through AP, then you have a certain curriculum that you need to follow as well.
I don't know. Now I'm torn because I've heard what she said and what you say. And I think we're talking, I know this isn't the way to fix this, but we have 4 students that almost be like, you 4 decide which way the track you want to take.
Yeah.
You want to take the AP track or do you want to take the SNU track? Because ultimately it's their future, but I know.
Would it be
You
the,
have 2-2.
I know that we got a bigger problem.
would it be the same teacher teaching either class?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so.
So regardless of which of these we choose, we're gonna have the same person standing in front of the 4 students teaching some sort of class.
Right.
Yes.
Pretty much.
Following a little bit different
Pathways.
path to get to that end.
Is there a blended pathway? You can do both
I
curriculum?
think nowadays.
I think that.
Very aggressive class AP is. Any AP you take
Any
is
different
aggressive
class.
and it's clearly stated in the syllabus that, you know, the expectations are high
Yeah,
and the
Okay.
pace is
Very rigorous.
aggressive. You know, because you have, for example, we don't have it because it's hard to do, but US history is, I think, the only one we have AP government too. But if you think of US history, we've got US history. We've got honors US history, and then we have AP US history. But my daughter says A push all the time, so it's I got ingrained in my head, A push. So we've got those 3 levels. And each level goes at a little
different path.
pace, a faster pace. You get to honors, it's faster than US history and they cover more.
Yeah.
The AP, they cover much more and go much more faster.
Todd?
Go ahead.
Do they have the AP course online?
Oh, I'm sure they do, but AP Calc online, oofa.
Like VLAX?
I think they probably do, Elex, but again, I don't know why we would, because not everybody can do
Yeah, no, I wouldn't.
online and be successful.
And on the other hand, do they have the SNU course online that they can take for the same?
Again, but it's,
VLAX doesn't offer those?
Because my son's taking the college courses online. He thought it was great.
Through early college.
I don't know which one it was.
I think we can go with.
AP.
the
We'll go with
maintain
AP.
until we can.
thank you.
Uh,
11.
page 12, I just.
Oh, sorry.
But I didn't miss much.
I just changed the name of the English class that we will be getting to. Hopefully, page 13, we would like to eliminate the honors by exhibition. That has not,
Go ahead. You know where I'm going, but go ahead.
like I said, I'm gonna try this one more time. We just have had nobody do that in years.
Do we, for lack of a better way of saying this, push students in that direction that are being told they can't take honors because they're conflicts with other schedules in, say, honors algebra 1? I'm in a student and I want algebra 1, but I can't take it because the schedule doesn't allow it for whatever reason. Are we as a school pushing that students to say, we have honors by exhibition, and that's another way to get there?
So that rarely happens, that we can't arrange a student's schedule so that they can get what they.
I firsthand know that it happens.
That's a very specific question.
But it does happen, but not a lot. So The other problem is honors classes have a different curriculum. So it's difficult to teach two separate classes within one course. And it has to be something that both the student and the instructor agree to. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know of any teacher that would be willing or agreeable to do that. Because of the difference.
If we ask a teacher to teach algebra 2, algebra 1, and also teach one student that would like honors algebra 1, they can say no to that?
I don't know. I'd have to look at they might say it's an extra class.
Within the same class. They're not doing,
I don't know.
go ahead, Joe.
When this was brought up several years ago, the intent was that you teach the class and the student, you would sit there and have certain, step marks, say, that the student would have to reach to get the honors course. It wasn't up to the teacher, it was up to the student to get to those marks. So
But they would be given different tests.
yeah, it's like a different
Because an honors
extra project, whatever. You gotta.
Were we
this
calling that
project,
embedded honors or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Didn't we have a name for that specific situation?
Honors by exhibition is what it was called.
The,
Because you're right, that this goes back several years when we found that the numbers weren't necessarily there, and then the option to say, okay, as opposed to not offering honors, we offer it within the class that exists
I
already.
think Tina was the superintendent when we first did this. And again, it wasn't up, we weren't asking teachers to teach two separate classes.
But if you're asking a teacher to do different tests, provide more materials, that's another planning. That's planning for two separate classes.
But we already, this is what I don't get. We already have, we've had honors for, I don't know how long in this. We're not reinventing the wheel to sit there and say, you need to take this test over this test. You need to study this over this. We're not asking to do, you're gonna have that student in a class anyhow. We're not asking to sit there, you already have the tests. Unless it's a brand new teacher, the tests are already available to that teacher.
Not if they're teaching two separate classes within.
You're telling me the honors teacher who's taught honors for 15 years doesn't have honors tests that he's going to pass out to individuals. Now, I understand they may tweak them a little bit from year to year, but they're going to have those tests readily available to them and say, you need to pass this test if you want your honors credit.
Before we do anything else with honors, can we find out if we can have the teachers do what we're asking? If we can't, then it's a moot point. But if we can, it's a different conversation.
And I believe this was asked before. You might have to go, Jen might have to go back 5 or 6 years or whatever, but this was asked before.
I do sign those.
Okay, so Terry, you'll,
Yep.
Just above, like Ryland.
15 is the agreement which is
Where?
in place. Page 16, there were some changes to the college credit options, just some rewording. Since they have reworded some of their different options. So just added that early college are courses offered through the community college system of New Hampshire. So if you look at like the third bullet down, it says these credits transfer to many colleges, universities that are not guaranteed. We got rid of formerly Running Start because we had that in last year's, but now it's just early college at the high school, early college on a college campus, and early college online. So there's just those 3 different options. And then if we're not going to offer a SNU class, then we'll probably take that out.
We go to page 16.
That's the one we're on.
Okay. I'm still missing it here. These courses. What does it say again, that it may not be part?
The third bullet down at the top. Under college credit options.
I completely missed that 3 times now already. Thank you.
And then I did add the SNU into the course descriptions, but we can get rid of that. We're not going to be involved with that.
Did you have, and I'm not sure, does it new pre-calc?
No, the pre-calc is through early college.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so now we're at the English on page 19. Just changed. So the English department decided to kind of revamp their freshman English. So we crossed out the world literature and changed it to literature and society, having 3 levels of that. Explorations of literature and society for students that may come in, you know, maybe a bit below grade level and might need a little extra, like a bit of a slower pace. Then the college prep level would be literature and society, and then honors.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Go ahead, Cindy.
So how does the English department just all of a sudden change from world history to
World literature.
world literature? That's been pretty standard. I know it's probably old fashioned, but how are we all of a sudden changing it just right here? Like, what was the discussion on that?
So their goal was to basically first part of the year to focus on helping students kind of, you know, with those fundamental, those skills that they need to be successful. In the second part of the year is more of a world lit. So a couple of years ago, or maybe a few years ago, we changed from a foundations of English, used to be our freshman English class, and then we went to the world, offering the world lit as freshmen. So it's kind of a combination of those 2 curriculum. The foundations kind of literature percent.
Is there any information on what that would be in, like involved in that course? Because I mean, as a school board member, I'm always asked, you know, do you know anything about stuff? Excuse me?
Whatever is in the description of the course.
Do you have like the names of books, the names of resources? I mean, like you said, are they using some of the same resources? Why are they changing the name? I mean, there has to be some substantial reasons.
So they found that like last couple of years that kids seem to be struggling with the transition to high school. Didn't seem to be prepared to jump into reading, you know, the world's lit and reading those novels right when they first come in. So spending some time, probably, you know, part of first semester kind of preparing them for, so, you know, maybe some writing skills, you know, writing an essay and those types of things, so that then they're prepared for jumping into more of the world's lit for.
Okay, I found that it's, you know, if I said, what are these books that you would be using for this? You could tell me the names of the books, but where everything's online, I feel like I don't know how to get information. Can I get some information more like on
The resources.
specific
Peter?
types of resources? And I like that. I understand, you know, what you're saying. I just would kind of curious as to what the resources would be.
We have the books physically, right?
Yes. We have a lot of-
So is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, that would be great. I guess my question was like, we're changing the name, but maybe using some of the same resources and adapting at the beginning, like you said, to transition into high school. That makes sense.
Also, Cindy.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Tony.
So would that be what we call a vertical alignment issue, or are kids just coming up here not prepared to be here? Because this is, I mean, we kind of hear about this a lot. And it's frustrating to me. So what is the solution? I know we talk about vertical alignment, but is it that, or are kids just not,
I think some of it is that
not prepared?
there's that gap that we've said that everybody's noticed that we're still trying to close from the pandemic. And I think New Hampshire is closing it faster than the rest of the country, but there's still somewhat of a gap. I think that there's quite honestly, a lack of students finding the love of reading like we used to have. Kids don't read like they used to have, right, wrong, or indifferent.
And I'll be honest, Tricia will remember this. We used to have pre-algebra because students weren't ready. And this is going back 10 plus years.
Yep.
So it's not unique to the situation. I think it's more exacerbated. We've got more of this going on. And that's probably why the English department is saying, let's do things differently. But it's not like it's foreign to Raymond that we've had this situation.
It's not foreign to the rest of the
I'm
country.
just talking, because
Yeah, I'm just like, this
like
is,
somebody else said before.
Yeah.
I'm just worried about Raymond.
okay then. So I would say, I guarantee you with that, but, you know, I think that as, Kristen said too, we're starting to see gains with the iReady. So hopefully it'll be there, but they're always, you know, as I say that, we're never going to get 100%. So we need to figure that out for those kids who do struggle to read, how we can make sure that they can, you know, walk out of here with that piece of paper and they're graduating.
I mean, I don't need 100, but I'll take 97.
Yeah. Well said, Tom. Yeah. I got Joe and then Steve.
So instead of, it seems like we're changing the course just because,
Yeah, we're moving the goalpost.
yeah, I mean, and we're moving it backwards again. We're not pushing students.
That's what concerns me about it.
Shouldn't this be something that we should be looking at for the middle school?
Right.
Ready?
Kind of where I was going with
In my
that.
mind, we're changing high school now. I mean, we've changed so many things going from K to 8. Now we're gonna start changing stuff for high school. And in my mind, I mean, it should still be world literature, you know, honors world literature. And I mean, in my mind, why are we gonna teach a half a year of something that they should have already been taught? We need to make sure they're taught before they get here.
To follow up on that, Tricia, how do I ask the question? Are the numbers, how much are the numbers that are needing that extra help that we're trying to address? Is it 5 kids, 20 kids, 30 kids? And if you don't know, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't have numbers, but
Maybe Pete does because of, but
The exact number like that?
no, just a,
Percentage wise, it's a good portion of the students are not.
wouldn't it make more sense then to continue to have world literature, honors world literature, and then having the exploration of literature, and then those students need to then do that the freshman year and then move up to, and still take world literature or something. And I don't know, I'm not by any means an expert in education, but I don't want to, if we have students not ready for something, just as in math, we now do what? It's algebra 1A and 1B, and they do it for 2 years, and they now have got their algebra 1 credit. Why aren't we doing something like that in the English?
I think that's kind of the gist of what this is.
But no, because currently we still offer algebra 1 and honors algebra. Right now, we're doing the exploration or the literature and society. We have it, that class, and then we have honors literature and society. And if we're having honors students taking those classes, I hope we're not repeating stuff from what they should have gotten from middle school, right? I mean,
yeah,
if they're in honors,
Agreed.
so I'm just trying to understand how we got to it.
Trying to make it that consistency part across for all of the freshman level, if you will.
I have another question.
Okay, 1 minute. Go ahead, Steve, and then I got Marissa and then Cindy.
So
and so it might be like a 19-part question because a lot of stuff just got said that now is that
19.
it could be 14.
We're skipping you.
No, so, okay, so when I first looked at this, it kind of seemed like you were just renaming World Lit
Mhm.
to Literature and Society, and it's largely unchanged. But then Cindy asked a question about resources. So my first question is Literature and Society, the middle of the three, is it the same as World Lit? Is it essentially the same class, just with a new name?
No,
So it will
it's a
have
different curriculum.
functionally different curriculum. Okay, so that's a little bit different too then. So one would assume based on the way this is set up that it's a parallel level of class, still what the same level as a basic World Lit would have been. So the honors would also be commensurately an honors class, but just slightly different curriculum.
Correct.
Okay. All right. All right. Maybe it's only 3 class questions. So I guess I understand the lower level, more intro level class, but yeah, I'm gonna stop for now because I might have more questions now. I have to think again.
I think, who did I say was next? And then Tony?
I was.
Yeah,
Cindy and then Tony, and then.
I'll get in line.
I personally, I went to a charter school before I came here. By no means did they follow any curriculum close to the middle school. And I got here and I jumped straight into honors World Lit. Was that a challenge for me? Absolutely. That was a struggle. Do I think that part of that was because we were reading books that now I've learned weren't necessarily for our grade level, like Frankenstein by Mary Shelley? Yes. Do I think that we could possibly have the possibility of keeping World Lit and honors World Lit and instead trying to push those students but still supporting them? And I know we have students that work with the janitors here and they work that way, but I know there's a lot of students who really do thrive in these classes. And I think that even just for ELO credit, if we had an opportunity where the kids could come in and be tutored by students who have taken the class so that they're still pushed, even if they don't want to take the honors, they want to take the normal. I think that if we had students that could tutor them, like same age group, same level, took the class, know the struggles, know the way out, I think that that would be really beneficial for both parties. And I think that that would really help to keep both of those levels, push the students, and still give other students opportunities to help the younger grade levels and kind of create that connection.
Cindy?
So I feel like I got 2 different answers. Like when I asked, is this world literature, you said it's basically the same curriculum. We're just bridging the gap between going from 8th grade to 9th grade. But you just told Steve that it's a completely different curriculum.
I don't remember saying that it was the same curriculum. I said the first part of the year is going to be more of a transition and working with students on, how to write, reading strategies, like all those things that they need for the second part of the year, which will be more of that World Lit, those reading those novels, more along those lines. So the second part of the year will be similar to World Lit, not exactly, but on those same, the first part of the year is more of that fundamentals or foundations to help transition them to the second part of the year.
Okay, so my other question was, is this going to be at the level, like say, in your transcript, this is going to be accepted, just like a lot of times they want you to have world literature and American literature or whatever the case may be. Is that going to satisfy those requirements to say you go from one school to another or something like that?
So all 3 levels will be a full schools everywhere have different names for their English classes. Like if we have a student transfer in that's like an English 9, like I would put them in a World Lit, even though it's not the same name, because that's what we have to do. So they don't always match up. Our goal is for them to get 4 English credits in however way they can do that.
So my concern would be like that they would get enough of this, like she said, the standard literature for world literature, you know, and then you've got your American literature where, you know, there's certain types of literature that would be common in those courses, that they would have that background if they're going to take the literature course, that they would be exposed to those types of reading. You know, honestly, most kids probably aren't going to just go right out and get those types of literature until they're exposed to it. Maybe then they'll have an appetite for it. But if they never see it, never know it exists, then they might not ever. Yeah, I don't know.
Tony?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be the jerk. 'Cause that's what I'm good at. I understand the need to bridge the gap and do that, but what this doesn't do is, in my mind, address the real issue, which is that we shouldn't need to bridge the gap if they're doing the work down the street. It's, you know what I'm saying?
No, I hear you.
Like,
But one of the things I will say is that we've changed the way we're doing things at the middle school in that where students in math and English might not stay with their homeroom group. There are groups that mix up because if I'm at grade level, then I'm going to be with one group. If I'm behind by 2 grades, I'm going into a different group and I'm being taught at a different level than my cohorts, right? Is that correct, Terry? So we are changing. It's not going to catch up in time. It's going to take us some time because we've got significant students that are behind grade level. And we'll see those numbers in 2 weeks. You also, I agree with you.
I mean, that
should
in
be put
and of itself is a problem. Because, I mean, in my mind, there shouldn't be kids here if they're 4 grades behind. Because that doesn't work for anybody. It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help the kid that's 4 grades behind. It doesn't help the kids in the class. It doesn't help the teachers. It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help anybody.
What do you do?
They stay back when they're.
Well, they should. We have kids that are 4 grades behind. That's ridiculous. And I know it's not us. It's what it is. But what the hell are we doing? 4 grades behind? That shouldn't even be a thing.
So I guess, if I may speak.
Before you go on, Tricia, are you all set?
Yeah.
And before you go on, I just have one of my concerns is where in Raymond at the education will we have a year of the students reading world literature? And that's one of my concerns. We have them doing it sophomore year, we do it American literature and that's all they're reading. But yet we don't have in our system where they're reading a full year's worth of world literature. I hear you that the intent is I gotta read it, literature and society, by the second half, they're gonna be doing some of that. And I don't know that, are we really wanting our graduates to graduate without as a full experience in world literature as possible? Go ahead, Tricia, and then I've got.
They can graduate 4 grades behind. I mean, I don't know.
So just in reading the description, I mean, do you want me to read it to you guys?
I don't need it to be read.
Okay, so, I think that we need to understand that we have a lot of students that are struggling. We need to meet them where they're at. I have complete faith in our English teachers. They're the ones that developed this description along with the curriculum to go along with it. I think if we need to start in providing students with some fundamental skills at the beginning of the year to get them where they need to be to move on to more of that literature with reading novels, short stories, poetry, then that's what we need to do. I mean, I hate to see kids fail. So if we can prepare them to move forward in that more effective manner, I think that that's what we need to do.
I don't think anybody's suggesting that we take away the extra help that is required for the students coming in because the 8th graders are coming in and they still need help. I can only speak for myself. I'm concerned about taking away, for example, honors world literature.
Well, the honors literature and society would be comparable.
Comparable. Okay, but not this,
So
it's not the same. That's my contention. I have no issue with the teachers that we have. I just question the need to take away honors world literature and potentially world literature at all. Because we've got students, I'm sure, that can take world literature today coming in and be very successful. That's where I'm coming from. And I just don't know why we're not doing something similar in English that we're doing in math, where we're doing algebra 1A, algebra 1. Oh, what's after A? Go ahead, Steve.
So, okay, so I did look at the descriptions. And I guess I'm curious because the descriptions for World Lit and whatever the new one is called, Literature Society, are nearly identical, as are the descriptions for Honors World Lit and Honors Literature and Society. I think literally the only word that's missing from the newer version versus the old is the older version says world literature and the newer version says literature. So I guess my question comes back to the curriculum again. If these are largely 99% the same description, what is missing, if anything, from the new version of the curriculum versus the old? Because if I agree with John, if we're taking away something that should be read from a world literature perspective, what is it being replaced by? And why would we replace that? I mean, again, the description, and I understand the newest class is that bridge class, that pre-calc, that calc A, B, whatever, however you want to kind of make an analogy for that first class. It's a way to bridge the gap for those kids. So that initial class is completely, to me, a different animal. I don't have a problem with a class offer that lets the kids who are struggling catch up. I agree we should be addressing the issue about why they're behind, but the other two classes to me look exactly the same, with the exception of the word world is not there. I mean, quite literally, it's almost word for word the same description. What is it?
The word like, do you want world literature back in there or?
I want to understand what the difference is between literature and society and world lit. Like why is it not world lit? What makes it not
They're
world?
saying that they're not doing world lit, they're doing other literature. And I think the board is saying you want world lit.
Well, I want to know what that means before I say I want world.
It's not world lit. It's
Exactly.
different literature. It's not world literature.
You don't get the list of the resources.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just.
because it might be a perfectly fine class.
Well,
That's what I don't know.
it's not because it's not world lit.
Okay, I've got Cindy, and then Tony, and then Joe, and then I put myself in line at fourth. Clean up.
Sorry,
So,
I had to take a quick break. I apologize. I've been in freaking meetings all day.
yeah, 15.
We're at 12. I'm getting close. No, the only thing I want to say is
Past
when
10,
I
I'm
went to
getting out of
college,
there now.
I took a literature class and it was a fully credited, I was an English major at the time. It was entirely Irish literature. Everything we read, plays, poems, everything was just Irish. Didn't make it a bad literature class. It just gave it a perspective of Irish. It is what it is. My question is, does it matter here? Is it truly world lit or is it still a good lit class? The examination of literature shouldn't matter if you get pieces from all over the world versus all from one culture. That's why I want to know what that list looks like. Sorry.
I don't even remember.
I think it was Cindy.
I was
think it was
next.
Cindy,
Joe,
I was
and you.
totally
Yeah, I was
next.
last, I know that.
Cindy's,
Okay, so my thing is like, I know that we vote on, I can't remember us ever saying we wouldn't help with curriculum, and we vote on curriculum and we give money towards curriculum. And that's obviously what we have to do. But I feel like an English class is a really core class that I feel, I kind of feel bad that you're here by yourself. You know, I feel like this should have been something that we talked about as a board and we had more information before we got to this point where it was changed on this, you know, thing here. And I just have a hard time approving it because I have no idea anything about it. And I understand what you're saying. It's not that I don't trust anyone. It's just, I don't know. Like somebody says, how could you have approved that English program? You have no idea what's in there. And I'd be like, I don't know. That, you know, why would I approve something I don't even know? So that's my quandary right now, is not that I don't trust anyone, but that I would have to vote on something that I don't really know anything about. And I feel like it probably would have been good if the English department, at least one or two representatives would come and give more information on that type of thing, because I think English, you know, is a very poor class and something we do need to address. And I'm a teacher. I've taught 5th and 6th graders how to write in this world that we're living in. And I know what the challenges are. And I know 9th grade is a good time to address those challenges, but I just would like more information about it. And I feel like I can't just be like, oh yeah, that's great, not knowing anything about it. So that's my mind right now.
So who was next? Was it you, Tony? And then Tony.
I just want to make it clear that I don't have an issue with, you know, kids that need help. Obviously, there are students that need more help than others, but my concern is with the volume of students that apparently need this extra help seems to be increasing. That's where my concern is, and my, I guess, initial criticism would have been not so much that we're doing it, is how much we have to do it now. That's all.
Gotcha. With high school the way it is now, unlike it was 30 years ago when I was there. I mean, yes, it may be a little bit of a struggle for those individuals to do the world literature. But, I mean, even if you have a bad grade now, not like you can't retake it and learn, because you're supposed to be getting that, you know, paper back. It's supposed to be, the teacher's supposed to go over it with you, what you did wrong, and you're supposed to be able to learn from that. I mean, you're getting extra help already because, well, that's what we made it so you could take retakes and get the extra help and take another test or take, you know, rewrite the paper, you know, do the paper all over. It's a lot more like college. You know, you get the paper back. Sometimes the teachers allow you to rewrite the paper in a different format or a different way or whatever. But I don't, and again, just like Tony said, we want to bridge the gap, but I think we've helped individuals bridge those gaps already by giving them the chance to retake things where they couldn't 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whenever the heck we started doing the retake system. So that's helping them bridge the gap already. I mean, if a student sits there and he doesn't do well on one test and he doesn't make any adjustments on his retakes, well, then he's not learning anyhow. I mean, if we're going to have a half a class, you know, I'll just say half a class, or just trying to have the kids catch up, even though we have retakes now. Again, kid fails one, the teacher sits there and the teacher lets the student know what they did wrong, and they have the chance to retake the test. I can't see having, you know, a half a year where we're just teaching that, and again, where they should be taught that in middle school so they can make it to high school. I mean, we have 3 sections of this right now. If you want to have, you know, explorations of literature and society, and then have world lit and honors world lit, if we can do that, I'd rather that.
What's your recommendation, Terry?
Get out of here. That's,
Yeah, it's like you guys have made it pretty clear what the recommendation is. You guys want world lit. It's privy of the board. They're the boss, so that's what we're gonna do.
Well, like I said, I think we should have, as Joe said, the exploration of literature and society, or whatever it is that they want to do. And I'm asking, does it make sense to have similar to Algebra 2, where they have, those students would take it year 1, And then year two, the second half or the second part of that, I don't know.
So I guess that's where I'd have to ask Tricia, where those students are struggling, do they get the exploration of literature? And then do we move into world literature because they're ready? I'm also going to say, I don't think that looking at our test scores, that there's been a drastic drop in the last 5 years. So I question why they're not ready, because in the last 5 years, it's basically the same test scores. We're at the New Hampshire average. We're not below average. We'd like to be above average.
The average is.
But when pushed, because it's better than being below. So I'm going to question that. When I look at that, I do realize that eighth graders, when you look at their when you look at their fall and their winter scores, they're definitely better in their spring because they've checked out. But they make growth and then they're basically, why am I taking this test? And so they're done. So do I think we have some struggling students? Absolutely. I'm not a fool. And even if we do look at it, 50% of them aren't on grade level. Because even if you're at the state average, the state says 50% of them aren't on grade level. So do I think we need to do some extra work to get them on grade level? Absolutely. So if that exploration of literature and society is where we try to close that gap, that's where we try to close that gap. I will also say it is much harder to close that gap when you're in high school than it is when you're in first, second, third, fourth grade. So when you're a struggling reader in high school, I'm going to have the odds that pretty much we need to find tools so that you can access the literature in a different way, because you're all of a sudden not going to be able to comprehend what you're reading like that. So we're going to have to provide, text to read or read the text or whatever the words are called, so that those students can put on some headphones. And what we have to ask ourselves is more important if they're, and I'm just going to say, reading Romeo and Juliet, and they can understand what Shakespeare was trying to say, so that when someone's, and I'm exaggerating, please, someone's up there talking about it and they can understand the conflict. Can they, after hearing that, explain that? Because that ultimately will be the most important thing, because hopefully we've got them to a point where they can understand simple literature. But when we get into the weeds, they need to be able to understand it in life.
Tony?
Yeah, I get that. I appreciate that sentiment. But as the parent of a student that has issues with things, he never liked to write. So the attitude was, well, if he gets the answers right and he knows what he's doing and somebody else writes it down, it's not a problem. But he's going to come into this building not wanting to write.
Yep.
He's not going to do it. And like you said, then what do you do?
Yeah, eventually we got to teach them
To do
like
it on the street so you don't have to deal with it here.
Yep.
I mean, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Oh, that's a conflict
The
too. Yeah.
work down there is
Yep.
less work here or further progression
Yep.
because they're not having to
Right.
do stuff that should already be done. And again, so if I'm 4 grade or say I'm 2 grades behind and I come to high school, and now do I have to start in these lower courses?
Probably.
And I should have to.
Yeah.
It should not even be an
Well, it's
option.
right there. It's an administrative team, New England, that you have to be assigned that. The exploration one. You just can't take it. iReady, previous year's grades, teacher recommendation are used to determine placement.
But what I'm saying, yeah, if the kid is 2 grades behind in any subject, they should automatically be placed in.
I think they are.
This is what they do.
Yeah, because they
would be in.
I would,
I would-
I don't know exactly how many grade levels behind, so I don't want to.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But if this is the lowest class they have in that subject, that's where they should start.
Yep.
I mean, we're just facilitating the issue in my mind by doing all this extra stuff. We're not really helping it. We're pretending like we are, but we're not.
So we have the English lab / math lab in 8th grade, or whatever grades.
Yep.
Maybe we should just, if it's that much of a problem they're saying at the high school, maybe we should just say it's an English lab and practice,
Oh, it's both labs. I mean,
we'll have a half a year and a half a year, and this is how we bridge the gap for this. I mean, that's all.
The bridge in my day was called summer school.
Well,
That was
that
the
too, but
bridge.
we found out we can't.
Yeah. Can't do anything anymore.
So what is the pleasure of the board? I think the position right now is we have the explorations, whatever beyond, whether it's literature and society or world literature, I don't. And then we have world literature and then honors world lit. Is that where we are?
Sounds good to me.
You're
I'm gonna
getting
ask our
some,
student rep's opinion. What do you think about that?
But
I don't go to school. I don't know what the feeling is. What is your opinion?
I
of
do.
this?
I still think that we should ask for the students to strive because we're seeing not only an academic change in the students as they're coming in through the years, but a huge personality change. And I can't speak for any of the other schools in this district. I don't go to any of them, and I haven't. But I came here pretty much with no education. I'm not saying charter schools are bad. I went to a great charter school. They taught me stuff, but it wasn't our curriculum. I came in, I wanted to do honors courses. I put myself in an honors course and I pushed myself. And I got help from people. I got help from classmates. I reached out to teachers, and that taught me how to communicate with people. It taught me how to push myself. It taught me that sometimes I have to teach myself skills if they're not taught in the class. And I think that those are so important. So I think that no matter what classes we add, I think that we should ask the students to push themselves to the same level. And I still think that if we offer some sort of tutoring system, or maybe if they're in ISS or something, or restorative practice or whatever it's called now, if they say they have a problem with something or maybe they need help, we have Mr. Parker. He's my RAM teacher. He's fantastic. He helps a bunch of people. We can have students who thrive in those classes that can help those students. I know it's a lot easier for the new kids to go to students and instead of going to these teachers. So I think whatever classes we decide to add, I think we should still ask the students to really push themselves, because even making that jump, do we necessarily have to build a bridge? I don't personally think so. I think that we can ask those students to push themselves and make that jump and then fill that in, because I think that they are capable of that. And I think we should prove to themselves that they are capable of doing that.
So it sounds like we've got a direction. Are you folks clear on what it is? And
I have a question. Originally it was said this is a whole new curriculum. So are we going to use the whole new curriculum, or are we going to use the world history? She said this was a different curriculum.
well, in world literature, it would be I'm assuming the same curriculum we have now. I don't. And then honors world literature would be the same. It's the exploration course that will be determined by the administration and the English department. What that looks like.
I'd still like to see a list of what the
We
alternate,
can still get that.
alternate list was. Awesome, thank you.
Get that to Carrie by tomorrow though.
Time is freed up. Go ahead, Marissa.
I just want to offer like a completely out of the blue idea. You guys can completely shoot this down and say, this is horrible. What are you talking about? But I think that maybe instead of having the students who struggle in these academic subjects have to do a different class that can interject in their actual world lit or their honors world lit. And possibly we do have our half year classes. Maybe if instead of a student doing their health their first semester, their freshman year, or an art class, we can ask them to be put into a elective credit that could help them with their English studies, and it would count as an elective for them instead of a lit credit, and they would also be in that world lit. So they would be getting extra help, but they would still be in the class with those classmates who are at that academic level, which I think being around that group can really benefit them.
I like that idea.
All right.
So I just want to point out, I know the formatting is all messed up on this, but I don't worry about it too much until I go in and make the actual changes, because it just takes way too much. I don't think there are any other changes.
Before you go on, Krishna, I just point out that in honors, whatever, sometimes it mentions you gotta have the B or better, and sometimes it doesn't. I can't, for example.
All of those.
And I mean that throughout the program of studies. I don't mean that exclusively to, so just to be aware.
Yeah.
But I also thought that we had talked, last year had said that we're not gonna hold somebody back from taking an honors something.
They are recommendations, not requirements.
Is that what we did? We changed? Okay. Just make sure that we have if we can, the same wording.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, that's what you said?
Yeah.
Because the AP does require a grade, and I understand.
Yeah,
I
that's
understand why that was,
different.
yeah.
Yeah.
So on page 25, the social studies department did also add explorations in world history for those students that are struggling when they come in, kind of similar to what the English department did. Yeah, so it's that, and then there's also on page 27, an explorations in the United States.
Should we, is the intent that, for example, explorations in world history, are the students then going to have to take a world history next, or are we just going to do,
If that would give them their world social studies requirement.
thank you.
And same for US history on page 27. Because it's social studies on page 32. Our course that was, well, first of all, we're going to eliminate days of change and challenge. It's a class that we have offered over the past years, and there has not been enough of a demand from students to take that class, so we're going to eliminate that. And then Sports and Society, which has actually become quite popular, we would like to break that up into two different sections. One for grades 9 and 10 to be offered, and then for grades 11 and 12 offered in the summer. Just so that, you know, to kind of gear the material for students and so on page 33, it's on there, if you'll notice, like last year, we didn't offer explorations in algebra 1B. No, this year we didn't offer it. It was in the program of studies last year. What we did is we just broke it up in requirements there. So if they take 1A and then they take 1B, they get a math elective credit and then an algebra 1 credit. So they get 2 of their math credits over the course of 2 years, which includes their algebra 1 requirement. We're just kind of on the chart for math, we just kind of redistributed some, like reading on some things. So students need algebra 1 and then 2 math elective credits, which can be whatever they choose. They can have geometry, they can have algebra 2, they can have consumer math. And then we also have the honors with the Community College System of New Hampshire pre-calc. Oh, and I'll take out the SNU one because we decided we're not going to offer that. It's on page 34, top there. And just keep the AP Calc. So just cleaning up of the math under the honors, we labeled it as community college. It is honors level and it's also early college. I just wanted to make sure that was noted. And then for the calculus, we will go back and back to the AP. So everything that's crossed out will be not crossed out and everything that's red will be. Anything with science?
Before you go through science, Tricia, are we going to continue offering AP physics? No, we don't.
Oh,
You could remove that if we're not gonna, because it
no, I agree with you. We have not offered, I mean, we
It hasn't been-
offered it, but nobody has.
gone through it. And then my other question is, and this is going back many years, AP biology and AP chemistry. Originally, we were gonna do them every other year.
Yeah,
Are we doing that currently? Because it doesn't say it that way.
it
Or
doesn't.
do we have enough kids taking them so they'll offer them both every year?
So what we have done the last couple of years is we offer them and see where most kids, you know, where the bigger numbers are. But I think it would probably be better to offer them here. Yeah,
And can we start that, can we put a note in that we're gonna start that, not this, for 25, 26? Because I don't want anybody that wants to take one or the other
right.
to be denied that this year. I would rather, set the rules so that I can plan ahead and say,
Right.
okay, my junior year, I need to take AP biology and chemistry if I want it, my senior year.
Yep.
If that's the order in which it goes.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I just had a question. I know we already covered this, for especially like just for example, honors biology. It still says that you need a teacher recommendation. Is that true or do you not need that anymore?
What happens is it's recommended that you have a B or better. And it's recommended that you have a teacher recommendation.
Okay.
We don't, if somebody says, I want to take it, we're in essence not going to deny you the ability to do it. Is that the way to say it?
Yes.
Yeah. It's just that, yeah, I'll leave it at that. You all have that.
Under special education, nothing was changed. Nothing changed under phys ed or health. Nothing changed under computer science. Under arts on page 58, we changed the name of cultural arts workshop to crafts. which I believe we had like years ago. And then it was changed to cultural arts workshop and we have nobody, very few kids that sign up for it. Which I feel like they just don't know what that means. So we kind of, the art teacher revamped the description and changed the name. And then I just combined Open Studio 1 and 2 together under one description just to save a little space. Any questions? Nothing has changed under music.
Go
ahead, Joe.
For the music, it's pretty much stayed the same for, I don't know how many years now. Could we offer something? I mean, I know we have several students that, you know, go home and they do their own thing. And they do mixes and stuff like that on their own computers and stuff. And there are a lot of colleges now that offer, you know, mixing programs and stuff like that to become, you know, go out in the world, be special effects mixing and stuff, whatever it may be. They don't necessarily have to play guitar or anything like that.
I mean, like an audio engineer?
Yeah.
Music.
And,
Yeah.
I mean,
Studio
heck,
stuff.
one of the biggest, you know, audio engineers / mixers that did the whole thing to Maverick, he doesn't even know how to write music, which is amazing by itself. But I guess you probably have a program for that now if you wanted to write it, so.
Yeah.
We do have
Eddie Van Halen.
classes that are fairly new. I mean, they've been there for maybe 3 years, 4 years, but.
All right, that's something, but
Scribing.
yeah, I didn't see that.
Recording is fairly new. I think that was last year. And then topics and contemporary popular music.
So would the live sound and studio recordings be like that or?
Probably, yeah, that has to do with mixing and soundboards and
Description, that's.
Recording software.
Business education on page 54. I'd like to eliminate accounting 3 and 4 because we just don't have the numbers for that. I mean, I have one student taking accounting 3 right now. He's the only one that's taken it in years. And if a student was interested in, going in that, direction as far as a career, then we would be able to work something out like an independent study or something. But, to designate a whole course for it does not make sense.
John,
Go ahead.
I understand that you're losing kids. I wish kids would start taking this again. Yes, it's not exactly the most glamorous job in the world. But let me tell you, I just read an article, 75% of all your CPAs in this state right now are at retirement age. There is going to be a huge opening for things like that. And let me tell you, they make good money. So it's definitely something to look into. Yes, it may be a little hectic between February 1st and April 15th. And if you do companies a little bit longer than that, but it is good money and there's going to be a need for it. So.
I know a place right in town could use somebody.
I hear a lot of students now, especially like this year's graduating class, next year's graduating class. Actually, like that's probably one of the top careers that I hear people say is accounting now.
We have a lot of kids going to business, yeah.
Anything else, Tricia, that you have?
Let's see. So,
I know there's some changes in SST, but
yep,
we don't control that.
right, they revamped their marketing program. They changed the name and the description, so that's on page 74. And I took that right from there.
Yep. All right, if we can get a motion to approve the program of study for 2025-26 as amended.
I'm like, I think the program for studies 25, 26.
Second by Steve. Discussion.
I just have one question.
Go ahead.
And I ask it every year. Can I get the list of books in the, what is now, I guess, honors, diversified perspectives in literature? I don't ask for it every year. I don't know.
The honors level?
I didn't see one that wasn't honors. That's all I saw was honors, but yeah, if I could just get a list of those books.
All right. All those in favor? Aye. My motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, both of you.
On a side note, I finally know where SST is.
Okay.
I'd never been by it. Never had a reason to go.
By the Exeter Inn.
Next up, district calendar for 25-26, Terry?
Math?
Oh, sorry. I forgot. Go ahead.
I'll take us to 10 o'clock, so.
No, I think we'll streamline it.
So,
I guess.
don't go anywhere.
I think we can take it up next time.
That's fine.
And,
Are you here, Angela, for this?
I'm here for that. I wanted to answer your same question.
Okay, so,
we'll do it tonight.
yeah.
Okay, I'm just trying to.
Yep, nope, I get it.
It's moving, but if we have to do it tonight, we'll do it.
So it was brought up several weeks ago about adding a different math class, a more, what do I want to say? Perhaps, math class. So, we were asked to do some research. So the current math requirement is 3 credits. Additionally, the district requires that every student take an additional year of math or a non-math class in which mathematics is significantly applied. That's a policy. What are some examples of that, Peter, Angela?
Now we have,
If you could come up.
oh, sorry,
Thank you.
sorry. Yeah, we have 22 courses that have math applications in them outside of math as well. And I mean, just,
4 examples?
economics, honors economics, computer programming, computer design, game development.
Now, would like
robotics.
CAD and woodworking and stuff have to, I mean, that's mathematics, right? Like
Yes.
stuff would.
They're all,
Well, he's got 22 of them.
there's 22 of them.
Just as opposed to listing all 22.
So right now we have 3 full-time math teachers and 3 teachers teaching 1 class of math. So Angela, she teaches 5. Lemieux teaches 5. Is it Pancoro? Pancoro teaches 5. Tom teaches 5. Sandra teaches, Tom teaches 1. Sandra teaches 1 and Mike teaches 1. And then I've broken out basically the number of students by class so that you can see their caseload.
We just went through the whole list.
Huh?
I know we went through the robotics stuff too. I assume software development style class would be in the mathematics.
That's one of the 22. Yeah. And then like there's 2 classes right now in our program of study, which can be offered on and off probability and statistics and trigonometry. In the past, there was a class offered construction math, but it was removed because just there was poor attendance. Nobody signed up for it. I'm not going to go through this whole list of possible new math classes because there's business math, sports statistics, code breaking, computer science, game theory, math and video gaming, engineering math, mathematical art design. So there's a plethora of math classes that we could offer that would be outside the typical genre of
Anything on handicapping? Odds?
puzzles and logic games.
That's
I'm sure we could get something. I mean, they got escape rooms. So the issue, as with anything, the issue is the manpower and who can teach us and what can teach us. Because as John mentioned, or somebody else mentioned, social studies is going from 2.5 credits to 3.5 credits very quickly. It's going to 3 credits. And then we're going to have to add another half credit because they're going to make New Hampshire history a requirement with the new Ed 306s. So that's going to require some maneuvering within the history department / English department to make sure we fulfill those credits. So as I say with anything, we can do it, but there's only so many kids. There's only so many kids to divvy it up. Something would have to go away to ensure that those classes had enough kids to fill them. Does that make sense? That's kind of where I'm at.
No. If the board said, starting with the class of 2029, we require 4 math credits.
Yep.
That's a different.
We would do it. I'm just saying.
What I'm saying though is it's different because those others like accounting or economics they could take them.
They wouldn't fill that.
Wouldn't count towards the math credit.
Correct.
And as we talked about last fall, we wouldn't need to add teachers for next year because the class of 2029, if we did it, they wouldn't be looking at those classes until junior year probably because we have requirements on them already to do certain things. At least freshman year, they need to do Algebra 1. They're not required to do geometry, so that's why I wasn't as concerned about the money for this year.
Yeah, but
when I say this year, I'm saying 25, 26. So that's where I'm coming from. That's me. So the board asked to have the motion back in, I think September, was to have the administration look at and propose some classes for us. They've given us a menu, so to speak, and I hope we don't try to pick from them tonight. I would hope administration would be doing that but that's where I'm coming from. But Joe, you had something?
No, I mean, I'm good with, whatever.
Well, I thought you had raised your hand, so that's why.
Keeping it at the 3 credits and, I think most of the kids already take a good portion of those 22
Of what?
classes. They take a good portion of the 22 classes already. Between, woodworking and all those things. They're getting something out of it.
How are we on our math scores?
As far as how
do we benchmark ourselves? SAT scores, right?
Yeah.
And how are we on that?
We're just under, right around state and national average.
Just so under.
I mean, right there.
And I'm not saying that a 4th credit will solve that, but it will certainly help it because we're talking in economics, you're not talking about math every day.
Correct.
So for me, one way to help it, because we used to require less science credits. And we said, wait a minute, we're not doing as well, and we've got science as a test in junior year. That's when we had testing in science as a junior. So we said we're gonna require 3 credits of science. That's how we got there. So, and I understand that we need to do more than just here at the high school. We need to do more things at the lower levels, but right now, as we talked about with English, we're still getting students in the door that aren't performing at the level we would like them to be. So that's where I'm at. Go ahead if you've got something, Joe.
I mean, you're taking a woodworking class or whatever. Those class, I don't get what SAT, if you're taking it, they're not gonna exactly help your SAT scores dramatically, yeah. Even if you're looking at SAT benchmarks. I mean, I took woodworking as a class. I don't think there's many woodworking problems on the SAT, because if I remember correctly.
So you want us to take it off the list at 22? Is that where you're going?
Well, no, I'm saying, no, you just, I think students right now take a lot of these classes, sitting there, making it a requirement to take the class. In my mind, they're already taking it. Why do I have to make it a requirement for?
Who's making a requirement to take woodworking?
Why, you said a class.
What's that?
You said the selection of, you were gonna have a selection
I
of.
think you're confused, Mac. So we would be adding new math classes.
Correct.
These are not math classes, these 22.
Those are only what we can offer now that
These are
coincide with what.
exposure classes, where they have some,
Some math, but it's not math in
but it's not a math rigorous,
68 minutes of math.
correct.
So
It's
what,
math exposure.
what the 4th year would be, these are no longer counted. It would be a math department class.
Correct. And whatever that might be, it might be some students, it might be algebra 2, or it might be gaming statistics or whatever it is. And the thought was, again, was to try to make, I think Tony said, more attractive. And that's what I'm trying to, because we've got students, and I've talked about this before, math phobia. And you never hear anybody talk about reading phobia. That was me, but you don't hear about it because I wasn't reading at level until 6th grade. I could do very well in math. But we always accept that, oh, well, Johnny can't do math. Oh, well. Oh, wait a minute, they can't read? We've got to really do some more work for them. And I don't think that's what we should be doing. I think that trying to give students different menu options for math, because algebra 2 is not for everybody. Geometry, not for everybody. Algebra 1 is for everybody because the state says it's for everybody. So anyways,
The proposal then is we require 3 credits of straight math, I'm gonna call it. And the proposal is we add 1 more, but it can be a math adjacent class from that list of 22. I'm calling it math adjacent. And you're saying you want 4 straight math.
correct.
So
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
As a 4th credit. Because right now, every student that goes through any high school in New Hampshire has to take 3 years of math and a 4th year of math. And it could be calculus or it could be economics as their 4th year of math. Well, half a credit, but you know what I'm trying to get at. Oh, sorry, Joe, I didn't.
No, it's fine. I mean, I'm good with offering a couple more classes. I would not agree to adding another credit to the graduation requirements.
the graduation requirements now are 3.
Yes, leave it at 3. I mean,
And you have to take a 4th or you don't. That either, like I said, a calculus or the other list of the 22.
Am I allowed to speak on behalf as a teacher, math teacher here? So I never really formally introduced myself. Angela Cooper, math teacher here. I was on the side of having a 4th year math, but over the time I've kind of changed away from that. One being, it might cause some of these classes to go, and we already just talked about accounting 3 and 4 being cut. So what accounting 2 is next? I don't know. My more kind of route would be, can we I don't know where this list came from. I don't know if it's a state required list.
Directly from our program.
So we created this
That's,
list?
yes, out of our program.
Because some of these, I agree, like how is yearbook a math adjacent class? Like I agree, they should have more exposure, but accounting is equally as math. Like if you're saying not, geometry is not for everybody, that's what's on the standard, that's on the SAT. So if you're using that test scores against us.
We don't use the SAT against you.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, that if we added a logic class or any of those listed, it's equivalent to them taking one of these because it's not what's tested on the state tests. Yeah, they're exposed to it more. I would rather refine this list and maybe offer 1 or 2 more math classes from our list as like a middle ground. Because you have those students that are struggling and just requiring them 4 classes kind of locks them in. They don't pass, then what? You know, it's summer school, but then you're locked in.
The other thing could be said for English. What if the kid doesn't pass because of English, because they were required 4 years? Okay. Go ahead.
I mean, I know you looked at the SAT scores, but I think we're getting to the point now with students that they know they're not going, I know they take it in junior year, but if they're not going to college, I'm guessing there's not too many kids trying if they know they're not going to go to college. If they're going to be a welder somewhere, they're not going, can't wait to get to college and take my SATs next Thursday or whatever day it is for the. So, I mean.
But you need to know math to be a welder.
You do.
You need to be good.
But you
at
also
math.
don't need to take your SATs to be a welder.
No,
But kids know that now. Back then,
but you need math.
I mean.
I can tell you, I use
Oh,
math.
no, you do
every day
need
of my
math.
life.
I'm not saying you don't need math, but they're not saying they're giving up for the SATs.
But I was that kid that said, I'm not going anywhere in life. I don't need math, but every day it's
Oh, my
geometry,
word.
algebra, everything. Like all
Oh,
I
yeah.
do is math.
You should be
I mean, you
preaching to
definitely
these
need, you
kids.
definitely need your math, but I mean, I'd hate to take one set of tests and sit there and say, this is what it is, because kids are, I mean, when I took the Iowa test, I thought I had to do great on them when I was, K through, 6th grade, and then I found out they're meaningless to me anyhow. I don't get any grades on them.
Yeah, you never even know how you scored on it, did you?
No, they used to give us a score.
Oh, yeah, right. I did the CAT test.
What would the board like to do on this issue?
I say expand our math offerings, but keep the, requirements the same.
Anybody else want to weigh in, or, because we need more than 2 people weighing in.
I mean, so I like the idea of offering the other types of math. I maybe a refined list that is maybe a little closer to math skills. I mean, there was one I saw that was like music and sound waves. I mean, you need to know math to look at frequencies and modulations, and that's not algebra. And it would probably never make it to an SAT, but you might need it for whatever job you want to do. So I like the idea of exploring different ways to do math. I'm honestly okay either way, requiring the 4th credit as long as it's one of those, or not requiring it and still offering all those classes. But I definitely think keeping it 3 straight math classes and 1, whether require the 4th one or not, let the kids take one that will mean something to them.
To be clear, we're requiring 3 math courses, and the 4th one is required. It's just a matter of where you take that 4th year
Okay.
from, whether it's
So
a
the
math
4th is
in the
required
math
either way.
syllabus or math program of studies, or you get it from the 22
All right.
we
I
add.
misunderstood that.
That's the state requirement that we have, so we have to live with that.
Yes.
I believe it's half. It's half.
What's that?
I believe it's a half year credit. I could be wrong.
Some of those are half. Yeah, no.
You have to take a year.
So you need the 3 math and the half.
It's a full year.
Full year.
Here, the state requires a full year
A
of.
lot of the kids saw the half year, were like, oh, I'm gonna take, was it Providence Stats that we offer that's half year? And we're like, that doesn't really.
But then they have to
That's
figure
why
out,
I applied for that one.
Yeah, it has to be 4 years.
There has to be another
Each
one.
year you were in high school, you need a math credit. All right.
So
So-
given that, I'm with Joe. I'd say keep it at 3 and 1. I didn't realize the 4th was already required.
Anybody object? So we're basically in essence keeping what we're doing today.
would you like me to explore some of these other creative math classes though, and see if there's an interest for students?
I would love that.
There we go.
Yeah, but I wouldn't put it on the front burner because
No, but
it won't be for
yeah, a couple of years, but
down the.
takes time to plan.
I understand.
You saw how long it takes me to get these posters done. So,
Simmer.
you know,
All right, moving on. All right, now we're at the part where we've got less than an hour before 10 o'clock. And we're a wee bit behind schedule.
Just a tad.
So what I'd like to discuss is removing, both policy readings, first and second, is there any objection? Do you have anything there that we have to do tonight on?
No.
Okay.
not that I was gentle, that wasn't very like, oh, this has got to happen.
We could wait on strategic plan update until the next meeting. The principal curriculum needs to happen because we're going to have them here in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Warrant article discussion. I don't know, but I think we should have the conversation.
Timely, yeah.
Time. And then, the calendar needs to be done today. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. So district calendar.
Where are we? District calendars in front of you. Basically, it's in conjunction with the other schools that go to SST. Our one basically outlier day, technically it's 2, is the Deerfield Fair. And I didn't know this until this year that a lot of schools we are contractually obligated to take the 23rd. A lot of schools are actually going a half a day on that because their contract doesn't say it. So those are our 2 outlier days
23rd what?
of December, excuse me.
Okay, I'm like, there's a lot of.
Yeah, our
23rd
contract
on
says.
here.
Yep, sorry.
No later than
I've just,
22nd.
right now we have our teacher parent conference scheduled for November 10th. That is the day before Veterans Day. And another change would be on March 19th. We have the 2-hour delay for the second parent teacher conference because if the new CBA passes, we have to give them delayed opening so that they can stay 2 hours later for the parent teacher conference. Other than that, it's basically pretty much jives with every calendar we've had in the past with what's wrong. It's different.
There's 176 days on this calendar.
Yep.
Current year, we're in 177 days. How did that happen?
Well, we can add one at the end. I think that Jen and I, yeah, we can add one. Let's make the 12th the last day. That's no big deal.
That's what I was doing.
Yep.
Is that?
I have to check now. I didn't see why. Where are we at? I had it all written down there. Nope. 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 Total RE days are 185, para days. Do we have an extra workshop day or something? 1, 2, oh. I think, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have 7, 8 in-service days because parent-teacher conferences counts as an in-service day now. So that's why we lost.
Got election day, didn't
Yep,
it?
177. Okay.
Then the other, and just to make everybody aware, we're going to have school or students come in on Monday, December 22nd.
Yep.
And then they're not going to come back until then.
They get the Friday off. They get the extra Friday off.
No.
I'm just, so that's the sacrifice.
But
Yep.
we're kind of hands tied because we can't really say we're going to take that day off because then we're not going to meet the.
We got to jive with everyone else.
But is this gonna be a day where 47% of the kids just don't come in?
I don't know.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I can guarantee that.
No, it's gonna be like 80 something.
That might be generous.
It will
A couple of years
But anyway,
ago, I was like, yeah, I'm
I don't think we can change it.
No, we have to at our 10.
The only day we really could change, because I think a lot of towns are taking, actually going to school the 23rd of December, right?
Yes, that's
But we can't. It's
By
contractual.
contract. The CBA.
The only day we could really take is the Deerfield Fair. If you wanted to say, I'm just
that one.
hypothetically saying, I'm not saying that if you, like John and I were chatting, if you say, well, we just want to take the 22nd because we realize the census will be low that day, we would say we're not going on the Deerfield Fair because we have to be 10 days. We're at 10 days right now with the other districts.
Yeah.
But I was like,
So I just wanted to bring it up because I've been there and I've heard about it before.
yep, it's just the way Christmas fall this year.
Which day
Correct.
is Deerfield?
So we get a motion to accept the calendar.
I mean,
I'll make a motion to accept the 25, 26 district calendar.
Does it have to be as amended?
No.
We're adding the 12th.
We didn't. What happened was Terry did some math and we're adding an in-service day in essence because of the parent teacher conferences. That's the day that we have to give up.
Okay.
Second by Steve. All those in favor? My motion passes unanimously. All right, district or 2025 warrant tax impact. A citizen came to me during the delivery and asked about changing the way we do tax impacts. And in essence, I can read it, what I typed up better than for example, for the operating budget, the way it would read was the estimated tax impact of passing this article is $16.14, which is an increase of $1.14 from the previous year.
I love it.
And this has been discussed. I don't know if Joe remembers, it's been discussed on and off doing it that way. And then we get both worlds. We tell them what the full impact is and then also telling them, however, you're not getting $16 increase. You're getting $1.14 or whatever it is increase. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I know as long as I've been on the board, this has been a point of contention with, various people in the town. And I get both sides of it. And I like the way we do it. Because if I don't know that the tax rate was $5 and it just says the tax impact is $5.50, I don't know that my taxes are going up or down.
People have asked me,
I don't know that.
is the town saying they're gonna operating budget's going up $5? No,
Right.
what it means is this, and there's confusion. So I think this will then
Yes.
eliminate that.
And I like that format of a tax, which is an increase of X amount.
Right.
Like to phrase it that way, you get.
And then the other one that I just used an example, Article 4, I know Terry's is not recommending this, but I think it's important that we do it on all the articles. So Article 4 would be the estimated tax impact of, and Article 4 is our CRF. The estimated tax impact of passing this article is 40 cents, which is an increase of 4 cents from the previous year. You look puzzled.
Read that one more time.
The estimated tax impact of passing this article is 40 cents, which is an increase of 4 cents from the previous year.
I didn't have much input. This was Marjorie and Jen. I just kind of like what they said.
In the extra stuff that was added to our agenda, the way the budget one reads is the estimated tax impact of passing is an increase of $1.14 per thousand, which would be a total of $16.14.
That's the way they wrote it. The way I'm suggesting is different.
That's why I'm asking. So you just said it the other way where you
I think
do
it reads better that way, and I think
The-
somebody can understand it better that way.
the total first and then
Yeah.
it's an increase
Increase
of.
of.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would agree with that. Seems to be more,
Yeah, and the one issue that I have is, for example, you have a contract. It's a 31-cent increase. It's just a flat. It doesn't increase. It's an increase of 31 cents. Do we repeat ourselves to keep it the same way if we do this?
But then you don't know when you're adding other things up.
yeah, but his
Changes.
Yeah, it's not going, well, I guess you
didn't
could
go-
calculate what the cost of the old contract was, but
No,
no, you
you
can't.
can't
do
even
that.
There is no contract.
Right.
That would just be an additional.
It's 31-cent increase,
Right.
which is a 31-cent increase from what last year.
I don't think you
That's
have to
what
say
it
it
is.
twice.
Well-
You just say it's a cost of 31 cents per thousand. And just leave it at that.
Yeah,
There is
but
no increase.
I think people will read it and say, well, wait a minute, what's the increase from last year?
I mean, we could put in a phrase that says there's no increase because it's a new
It is
contract.
increase.
But this is not from this contract, it's a new contract.
Yeah, but you said the increase is 31 cents for.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be 31 cent increase from last year.
That's what I'm saying. Would we write it the same way? So in essence, the estimated impact of, or tax impact of passing this article is 31 cents, which is an increase of 31 cents from the previous year.
I would, yeah, why not? I mean,
Yeah, that's what I think is, because then
I mean,
nobody can
yes,
miss
it's
it,
the
try to
same
say we're
format.
trying to pull a fast one.
the only issue, one I'm gonna have an issue on is 5. Because that's the $400,000.
There is no
there's no tax impact, but what's the second sentence reading?
I don't.
It would be no additional tax impact, is that how that?
No, but I mean, what's, if not passed, what's the second paragraph?
This is the one from, unanticipated, right, the year end fund balance?
Because
So we already
I
cited,
said Article 4, I'm sorry, the CRF is actually 5. I made, because I forgot
there's
the,
3 and 4 of the contract.
right. And I made that mistake.
Yeah, so is it
Number
it's a net
6
loss, basically?
is the one where we're taking the 450, if we have it, and
Right.
putting it into the capital. And it says no additional tax impact is the one thing it says.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay.
yeah, I'd say we leave that one alone, right?
Because even if it got voted down, have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night. The school board can determine what they want to do with that money later on if that.
Yeah, and because you were right.
In the CRF.
I misspoke at the deliberative. It goes back. It doesn't necessarily go back.
Yeah.
The board has the ability between March and June 30th to do something different with it.
Correct.
Right.
All right, so we all set?
Can you just email me or write down your verbiage so that we've got it perfectly so we can get that changed tomorrow?
I'll ski over here tomorrow.
Okay. Before 10, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Just have to drop kids off.
Yeah.
I probably have to start at 8 to get here
Okay.
for any reasonable time. What's that?
I was just gonna say the snow is gonna start later, so if you get up early, get it done right away.
Exactly.
And Terry can have.
Really, I might kind of roll in around 8 tomorrow instead of 7:30 or 7:15.
I will get it to you. Thank you. All right. Next up is,
Do we need to motion that we're gonna do that, or are we just gonna do it?
I think the consensus of the board is to do that. Is that fair to say?
We want a motion so that
And like
next board
Sure, yeah.
knows exactly what we're doing from moving on. So this is how we're going to do it.
I'll make,
Minutes will reflect it, but okay.
Sorry.
Can't hurt to have one.
I'll make a motion to accept tax impacts as presented going forward.
As presented by,
Mr. Harmon.
Mr. Harmon.
yeah, okay.
I'll say.
By board chair, Mr. Chairman.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes unanimously.
Jennifer just has a question.
Go ahead, Jen.
I'm sorry. I know that I didn't catch exactly. Are you changing tax impacts on just the budget, just the operating budget warrant article is what we're changing?
No. One,
No.
Article 2, 3, 5, 6, and 8.
We have that many?
So I really,
And
I'm sorry.
I
for
will
some reason
email
I
you the
have-
information, Jen, when I email Terry. Does that work?
It does. Okay.
Okay.
We're gonna change it on 8 too.
Because that has a tax impact.
It has a tax impact of
Zero.
Yeah, and I did it, and it goes out 5 spots, and it's still 0, so.
So on a $1 million
Marjorie's
home,
gonna
it's a $10.
come up with, but that's a probably DRA or attorney question. I don't,
We can
all
let
right, so
Mr.
that
Longo
we
figure
voted
that out.
correctly, did
What
we?
did she say?
And
I think Marjorie said she can't add full tax impacts.
Did we-
Oh, why did she say that?
wait a minute, 1 minute. Did we vote? I think we did, right?
We did.
I can't remember. Okay.
No,
we'll vote
it-
again
it-
then and just.
We did, but that's okay. We can vote again.
Hold on.
All those in
Hold on.
favor?
Yeah, but
I
we're,
have an
He's
issue.
getting some
No,
communication.
we got a problem.
Jen?
No, I'm asking you. You said something about.
No, it's from her.
Yeah.
What's the issue?
I'm
She
just
said,
looking at
are you good?
So it was Marjorie that said that we could not show the full tax impact on the rest of the warrant articles because that tax impact, I guess, is dependent on whether the proposed or default operating budget is passed.
Contingent on.
So she was saying that it was only the operating budget that could show the full tax impact.
No. I don't read it that way because, for example, we're spending $549,038 on Article 5, which is CRF. And that's a 40 cent, by my calculation, tax impact. If it didn't exist last year, we'd be adding 40 cents. So it has no impact on the operating budget, because the operating budget's a separate entity.
Correct.
And we're increasing this article by 4 cents So it went, it's 40-cent impact with a 4-cent increase from the previous year, which has no bearing on the operating
we're not-
budget. That's why I don't understand why
We're not adding
Marjorie's
the
logic.
totals.
Right.
No, we're not adding. the
We're not
totals.
adding up totals. We're just, each individual line or article has its own impact. We're not saying, okay, we're gonna get $16 and whatever cents
Yeah, by the end, it's all the way up.
up to
yeah,
the
no,
$20, wherever it is.
It's $100 and some tax impact, right?
It's like, what? So
Thank you
I think
for.
we're all set. What's
Okay,
that, Jeff?
thank you. Thank you. I did just want to make sure that that was understood. So perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, so again, unless Marjorie can quote something that says we will revisit it, but I don't.
I think they were thinking we're gonna total it as we go, so by
Yeah.
the end, you know the total.
Correct, but that's
Yeah,
not,
no, you couldn't do
you
that.
do each uniquely. How about that? All right. We're not doing the first or second readings. We're doing principal reports, format for future. As you remember, or you may remember, back last time the principals were here and they provided the data and all the information regarding updates that we were asked for. I have a recommendation on how to do this. Is I would ask that the principals provide us all the information they traditionally do. And then on their report side, which is not the data, highlight something or a couple, 3 things, what they want to really highlight. And then we have the information, and people at home, if they want to click on it, they have it.
Can we get that information maybe the previous Friday?
But we
We
do
do.
get in our packet. They sit here and read it to us as we have it.
I don't generally see it until the notification about the agenda comes out, and then I go in the agenda and I click the link.
That's right, that's when you would get it.
But we don't usually get those the previous Friday.
Yes, we do. We got it last Friday
It would
for
be in
this.
the- it's
We
usually-
always get it.
Unless it's something that you would add later to the
Right.
working agenda, but typically if that's on the agenda, it would be in the.
Apparently, I don't see it till later. That's probably on me.
Alright.
Okay.
Because you put your computer in the car and it's cold.
And it's cold and it won't start up.
I don't see it.
So I'm not doing it. I'm not coming out.
I don't see it. till
And then
envelope.
for me, I would hope we would continue to receive the same data on academics as we do now. Does that work for everybody?
If we're not going over, we're just receiving it.
The academic would be gone over. I would hope they would go over the highlights. I don't think they need to go over
Yeah, we don't need
every
everything.
nook and cranny of each slide. I think it's important that people at home get to see it.
Yeah.
I think we really gotta cut it down to maybe under an hour.
That would be
Well, that's what we're saying. They don't have
Yeah.
to sit here and all
Here we
read
are.
the
We're
3-page
talking-
report.
In my mind, we're talking about how successful we are. And we're given 4 opportunities to do that. And we're trying to pare it down. It doesn't make sense that we're trying to pare down one of the most important data points that we receive as a board. We spend more time on other things than we do on academic data. That doesn't make sense. Go ahead.
Is your hand up? or-
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree that, but again, my issue is after 3.5 hours of listening to reports and data, I just don't care anymore. I'm not
Right,
gonna
but-
lie, I just don't care anymore.
I think we're eliminating about
Right.
45 minutes of the principal's
Right.
first part, right?
That's,
An
yeah,
hour.
that's what we talk about.
And then
I can.
if
live
it
with that.
doesn't work this
You're talking
coming
about,
time, then we can
When
look
they
at
come in and
something else.
basically read the 3-page report.
so the narrative,
Yeah.
you want to cut the narrative.
They could say,
I'm
hey,
all for cutting.
we
all
did
that.
this.
We'll
we-
still
yeah.
receive it,
Yeah.
but they'll just cover.
You don't
each
have to just
principal,
read
right?
it to us.
They would just say, hey, we were having a
I want to
play.
highlight
We
either
did
this
this.
employee or the student or whatever it is on the report.
Cut that down to
One or
about
two
3
things, as
minutes.
Terry
And then
said.
So let me be clear. 1 or 2 highlights of the narrative and then go with the data more in depth.
if they have 4 things they want to talk
The
about. we're
same
not
way
gonna
they've
cut
done
them
it in the past.
Thank you. Yep.
I would-
So they're,
In my mind.
Yeah.
Because again, we're judging ourselves on what? To me, it's the student data we should be judging ourselves on.
I would love, and I know they sort of do this, but I'd love to see real grade level highlight. And then right now they go into every, like when they do the grade 3 English
yes.
to the data, but then it's like 3 pages of each individual, I can't even think of it, like the phoneme, like every
Yeah,
little
like the
detail.
The
Yeah, we don't-
competencies.
I don't think we need to go through, like, I'd love to see grade 3 English, what's going on, and then we can see and everyone can have all the data, but I don't think we need to read
Right.
every subset of information out.
Okay, so you guys can go like this too to me. And I can relay.
I can ask them just to, we don't need to
That's what
cover
I-
that.
yeah.
I'm not bashful about that.
You know, well, typically when we're in hour two, we do tend, like I said, the first principal goes, he gets hammered or her, she gets hammered. And the other one is last. Woo, we fly through that.
But like
Tony.
I agree.
Yeah.
So you want just third grade, 25% are a grade level above, 20% are on grade level.
Or they could say we had a 40% swing here and then highlight that and then,
But also,
yeah,
Anything areas of huge.
anything we want to know about.
we will
right?
also, I think, either this one or the last one, we also get data on
Discipline and all that. Yeah.
not the discipline, but the success of the students achieving, like one of
The
the
growth,
the growth
data,
of the
yeah,
student.
Yeah.
Where the elementary was talking.
That's growth and all that. Yep.
Ms. Wallace was talking about a student with 267 or something, where they're well beyond.
I think there's stretch growth in this one.
Yeah, well, they went from 3 grades
And
behind to
that,
grade
to
level.
me,
Yeah.
is probably more important than the rest of it.
Yep. How many students made their actual growth, how many students are making stretch growth? That's in there. I saw Tom's, I think I saw Tom's already.
And obviously obviously they should be very knowledgeable of it all, because hypothetically, the chair might ask some questions.
Might
Hypothetical.
Yeah.
Hypothetically.
be ready.
Be ready. Know it all?
I ready and be ready.
Yep. Okay.
That work?
Yep.
All right. Awesome. Strategic plan, we're gonna wait for another. Anybody for committee reports? 1 minute. Your superintendent's report.
Nope, I've got committee too.
Okay, 1 minute on committee. Anybody from the board? No. Okay, I've got elementary committee. Kyle Barker presented the two options the committee is looking at. One is to do new at the elementary school or renovate and add to the elementary school. And I don't remember the numbers exactly, but they're close. I think 28 million is to do the additions to the current elementary school and change some of the things internally. And then I think it's like 44 million for new, and that's in today's dollars.
Is there,
What?
I'm just laughing because 12 years ago, it was
Yeah, that was
eight,
been-
8 something.
Over 20 years ago.
Oh, no, when they looked at adding the.
We did about 10 years.
Yeah,
I don't remember what it was.
But we have more money now.
Well,
Well, no.
The money trees are growing. The money
Yeah.
trees are growing.
it's like, I think 40% increase in the last number of years.
Oh, yeah.
in Building costs.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just like,
Every
it's easy
material.
to, yeah, go ahead.
the 44, the new, I think at one point someone had mentioned that there might be state money if we build a new building versus not build a new building.
We get state aid whether we build new or do the additions and renovations.
Is there a difference between how much? Or is it the same amount no matter what?
It's a different calculation and I didn't.
No, that's fine. I'm just curious.
We have
Okay,
to get in line for that and cross our fingers, right?
Yes.
Is that a thing that
Yes.
okay.
say your prayers every time you go to bed and hope for the best?
It's just.
You hope you're
obviously-
bad enough, which is.
It plays into the.
Okay, so
Now,
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Tony,
what
you're
you're
saying
hoping.
your
We gotta start
prayers,
tanking.
okay.
We want the top draft pick here.
Right? We gotta finish last. Like,
You just say your prayers when you want something.
Let the heat.
Say my prayers very often.
That's mine. Go
Start
ahead,
the
Charlie.
prayers.
SST meeting, state monitor came through and did a visit. They visit all the SST schools. They viewed 2 programs. They did animal plant science, digital media. It went very well. Sneak peek for Raymond sophomores. It was on January 29th in the afternoon. They had an open house in November. It was the first time they used it more as a recruitment tool. They had a very strong turnout. The majority of students who are interested brought their parents to SST, so that was a good thing. Already starting applications are due February 14th. However, there's open enrollment all year, so it's not tied to that, but they do like majority of kids who are applying to get them in by the 14th. Year 1 decision letters will be mailed on March 14th. Year 2 decision letters are mailed on March 21st. And the next meeting is on St. Patty's Day.
All right. Superintendent's report.
I actually have a little more information than Marissa had. Scholar Athletes in Concord. This award's going to be presented on March 31st, on the 25th. I'm going to mess up some names there, but Clayton Kramer, Lily Darling, Amita Jennings, Gustavo De Salva, Abigail Yako, Bianca Bergeron, Caleb Pulaski, and Cameron Morrill. Those were the students who were honored as scholar athletes. Indoor state track meets coming up. Dennis Glidden's competing in the 55 meters, high jump, long jump. Addison Pulaski in the 600 meters. Madeline Donahue in the shot put, and the 4x2 relay team of Clayton Kramer, Gustav De Silva, Caleb Pulaski. I got some, we got Clayton Kramer, Gustav De Silva, Caleb Pulaski, and Dennis Gilden qualified. Dre, he was also nominated for what's that?
Ray Dufo.
Yes, was also nominated for the All-Star Game where the seniors play the upperclassmen. That's basically saying he's one of the top 12 players in the state. Excuse me, I wrote it down. I think I'm-
Thousand point guy, right?
Yeah. Radios are in. Lo and behold, we have some interference in the front office on channel 1. So we can't roll them out yet. 'Cause when we hit the button, it goes beep, 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 beep. It's busy.
On
So
channel 2.
We're working. That's what I said. That's what I said. So we're working through that. And Jen, I will say Jen and I collaborated on these. She did the background. I just did this. But these are the portraits of a graduate going up. We have these for the middle school and high school with the RAM. Each one of these indicators, good citizen, empathy, apathetic, critical thinker. We have critical thinker. What does that mean? And so we have some bullets down here so a student can read that. We actually have the bullfrog emblem for the,
LRES,
what do I want to call that?
elementary school.
Yeah, but it's our branding for that. And we also took some of the language and made it more appropriate for an elementary student when we're down here so that the words weren't quite as big. So we worked on that. I think those are at the printer right now. So I think Pete's going to put these up tomorrow because I know he's coming in and then
Really good tape to make.
yes, because these are very slippery. So yeah, well, high school kids, not so much. Elementary,
About the bullfrog.
we're going to put them up a little higher so they can't quite, they got to jump to get at them. So that is done. So
Very good.
yep.
I like it. That was gonna be my question, if we have a elementary school version to start.
Yeah. Yep, it's got the bullfrog on it and the language is a little bit more easier to understand and read.
Elementary.
Yep. That's all I got.
Thank you. Any questions, comments for Terry? All right, manifest, correspondence or other, excuse me. Anybody? All right, then manifest.
Manifest total accounts payable, $984,564.17. Total payroll, $535,612.77 for a grand total of $1,520,176.94.
Get your signatures.
I think we're good.
And I think we'll wait on the minutes because we'll need time for non-public. Need a motion to go into non-public.
I'll make a motion, we go into non-public section under RSA 91 :A:3, rule 2, CNF.
Second, please.
Also.
Second by Tony. Joe?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Steve? And myself, yeah. Thank you, everybody.
I know that you can hear it a billion times. I was saying, 91A, Roman numeral 3.
Thank you, Jen.
C2.
Yep.
I like how I have 2 kids and it's gotta tell me twice that.
No school?
Oh, I got like,
Sit there
I
going,
got
"What's
2
that?"
calls and about 4